Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
SCTV's live coverage of Falmouth Select Board meetings is brought to you in part by John's Liquors, 729 Main Street, Falmouth, 508-548-2287.
Good evening. I'd like to open the meeting of the Select Board. It is Monday, July 1st, 2024. It is exactly 6 o'clock. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation, where discussion in an open session would have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor by roll call, please.
Zelinski, aye.
Muscali, aye.
Goldstone, aye.
Taylor, aye. And the board will return to open session at 6:30. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the open session of the meeting of the Falmouth Select Board. It is now exactly 6:30 and the board is returning from executive session. I would ask you to please silence your cell phones and please check that they are silenced. And please notify the chair if you are making an audio or video recording of this open meeting, and the placement and operation of your recording equipment shall not interfere with the conduct of this meeting. I would ask you to please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Any recognitions from the board tonight? Ms. Goldstone?
If I may, I'd like to take a moment to recognize Ryan Mann of Cloverfield Way. He has been serving as the watch captain aboard the sailing vessel Cayley out of Mattapoisett, participating in the Newport Bermuda race. And last week, a fellow sailing vessel, the Alliance, struck something unknown in the wee hours of the morning in the middle of the Gulf Stream, and within an hour, their ship sank. Cayley came to the rescue, rescued all 9 crew members. Ryan was responsible for treating all 9 crew members for shock and relaying appropriate information to the relevant authorities. The crew of Cayley subsequently decided, with all 9 of those extra folks aboard, to continue the race, ended up finishing 3rd in their class and receiving a prize for dramatic rescue at sea, and are now on their way home. They were about 150 miles northwest of Bermuda this afternoon.
Wonderful.
But Ryan's a local realtor, a local scout leader, and performed incredibly admirably along with the rest of his crew in rescuing their fellow sailers.
Thank you. Well
Excellent.
done.
Wow,
Well
that's
done, Ryan.
impressive.
Very.
Still come in third after that, wow.
Any other recognitions from the board? Okay, I just have a quick one. Michael McNaught was honored by the Falmouth Historical Society on Saturday, June 29th, and I was asked to speak, and it was really well done, and he is quite a treasure and has done an awful lot for the town of Falmouth. Okay, we're going to move into announcements. Any announcements from the board?
Just that today's the final day of the comment period for the Gulf of Maine wind lease area, Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. Anybody has any thoughts to share on that, you can share them today. Hopefully that comment period will be extended as per the request of the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association from last week. So we'll see what happens, but it's easy to look up on the Google search, BOEM, Gulf of Maine.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Yep.
Any other announcements? Okay, we'll move into public comment. Public comment may be made on routine matters not listed on the agenda tonight. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself, and since the matter has not been included on this agenda, the Select Board will not participate in any discussion or debate of your topic. Is there anyone here for public comment? Mr. Moriarty?
2 minutes, right?
That's it.
All right, I'll try to go quick. Hi, everyone. My name's Dave Moriarty. I want to speak to everyone about tonight in the town and the elected officials about the no information, no representation from Beacon Hill on what's going on with the wind factories and what's happening to the town and how the cable's going to go through the town. ISO and BOEM, they're going full steam ahead. South Coast Wind is going full steam ahead. So we haven't had a meeting in over 2 years about this issue, and I think it's time that the town had another meeting. And I would like to get some representatives from Beacon Hill. I haven't heard from any of our reps. I haven't heard from our senator. The biggest project that's ever hit Falmouth, Massachusetts, and we can't get anybody from Beacon Hill to come down and talk to us and tell us what the hell is going on. I think there's a problem here with representation. Just a little food for thought to think about when you're having your independence celebration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. Anyone else here for public comment? Okay, we will move to affirm the appointment of the Recreation Director, and I will put that over to Mr. Renshaw, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Select Board. First off, I want to report that we had a tremendously successful recruitment for this Recreation Director position. And this is kudos to the Human Resources Director, her staff. We had 61 applications that were submitted, so it was a very competitive pool of candidates. Madam Chair and Select Board, I could not be more pleased or more proud to make my recommendation tonight for the affirmation of Mrs. Julie Williams Tinkham. Julie is highly qualified. We learned so much in talking to her over a 2-round interview process. Miss Williams Tinkham has a bachelor's degree in kinesiology and physical education and holds a master's degree in educational leadership. She's a very experienced professional and leader in health and physical education, programming, coaching, and management. I could go on for hours listing Julie's accolades and accomplishments, but I'm just going to hit some highlights. In 2022, Julie founded Launch Track and Field in Falmouth, and as you probably know, that's the only Youth USA track and field program on Cape. So that's a tremendous achievement from Julie. She's demonstrated a very strong commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout her career. And there's a couple of examples of this. Julie was appointed to the National USA Track and Field Diversity and Leadership Committee as the Masters representative and the Regional Association representative. In a prior position, Julie wrote an inclusive athletic policy that passed unanimously through that community school committee and is now touted as the exemplar for the state of Massachusetts by the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletics Association. She continues to compete at a very high level as a masters athlete and currently holds national records, which I thought was really impressive, for track and field, W35, W40 age group weight, superweight, and ultraweight pentathlon events. So, Madam Chair and Select Board members, it's my pleasure and my honor to recommend that Select Board approve and affirm the appointment of Mrs. Julie Williams Tinkham as the Town of Falmouth Recreation Director. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and Julie's in the audience as well.
Julie, would you step up, please, to the podium? Questions or comments from the board?
No, how'd we get so lucky? That's awesome. She's got quite a resume. Incredible.
And Madam Chair and Select Board members, it was remiss. I should also mention that Julie is a resident, longtime resident of Falmouth, and she's very excited about bringing her talents, her skill set as a resident, making the Falmouth community even better.
Awesome.
No questions.
Anything you'd like to tell us?
Resume speaks for itself.
Well, I'm pretty great.
and modest.
I'm really excited. It's really exciting to have the opportunity to serve my community.
I see Joe's here, so I guess that gives the stamp of approval, huh?
More important, Sandy's here.
Yeah, Sandy's here, so I guess we're looking good. I'm excited to have Ms. Williams come along here.
Good for a motion?
Motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve and affirm Julie Williams Tinkham for the position of Recreation Director.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mike, when would she actually be starting, Julie?
So we're still working through some of those details. We don't have a start date yet. It's my goal I want to put this out as well, to have a bit of an overlap between, so Julie can kind of work with Joe, pick his brains, gather some institutional knowledge. Yeah. We're shooting for some overlap.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Brown, did you have a question?
No. Just hang in there a little more, Joe, before you go full-time as a photographer, huh?
Okay,
Okay.
we're gonna move into committee interviews. Regulatory Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, D. Scott Peterson. Good evening. Is there anything, Mr. Peterson, that you would like us to know about you that is not on your application? I think we all know you. You have served on the ZBA. Anything else we need to know?
Julie was great, so I'm outstanding. No, pleasure to serve, and enjoy the role, quite honestly. It's very challenging. Quite honestly, we have an opening on the board, so we'd love for you to fill that opening as soon as possible, but enjoying my time right now, so I appreciate it.
Any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Goldstone?
Given the scrutiny that the ZBA has been under recently, I wonder if you could just share with us your approach to conduct in tense and some kinds of confrontational situations that the ZBA can find itself in.
Good question. Very similar to the board here that I'm in front of. I would say that mathematically speaking, when you look in totality, the amount of minutes that the board is in front of applicants, some are, they themselves have some issues, and we have abutters that have issues. It's not always a love fest on the Zoning Board of Appeals, so structurally for us, I would think that if you did your due diligence, that's probably a 1% to 3% of the time where we have some constructive conflict, for lack of a better word. The vast majority of the time, I think that when somebody is potentially going down the wrong path, or a path where the board isn't comfortable with, the chair has acted and kind of administered either a little bit of a timeout for the applicant or the person that's at the podium, and or our own members. So I think that structurally we have a good mix of folks, and it's a good balance. For me personally, I think that kind of 32 years in business, in energy from waste business, it was always contentious in developing those types of projects. So I think for me, fundamentally, there's a lot of facts that I like to stick to, quite honestly, and you just have to be a good listener to get the right outcome.
Any other questions? I'll go to
Scott.
Mr. Muscali, and then I'll come back to Mr.
Bob, go ahead, because I want to make a motion after
Go
that.
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson, for your service. Just one question, if you will. What's your opinion of the Mr. Cod bylaw, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us? Is it a good bylaw? Is it harmful? Could it be harmful to the town?
It's my role to administer the bylaw as I read it. So the select board and planners have developed Mr. Cod as it's written currently. I hope that the board structure would be that folks like yourself could review it and make sure that it's accurate in depicting what the town wants on a go-forward basis. But my role is to administer the bylaw the way it's written today.
So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in one of the meetings you may have said that if Mr. Cod was fully implemented, that it might have caused too many people in the town of Falmouth. Was that a fair characterization?
Could you rephrase your question, please?
And I may be wrong, but I think that at some point during the discussion of the Royal Nursing Home, you may have said that if Mr. Cod was fully implemented, it would cause too many people to come to the town of Falmouth. Do you believe that? Am I mischaracterizing what you said?
I believe you are mischaracterizing, yes. I think that my statement was that if you're to look at Mr. Cod in its totality from almost St. Barnabas down to the T-Ticket School, you would have a massive change to the look of our town. So regardless if that's what transpires or not, my role is only to administer the bylaw. And I'm only one vote, so it's what the board ultimately comes up with. But I'd encourage you all to review Mr. Cod and see if there's way of either strengthening it or focusing its intent.
Thank you. Mr. Zelinski?
Madam Chair, one of the things I admire about Mr. Peterson is his ability to try to seek middle ground on things and explain things in a tone that is inviting for reciprocation. And with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Mr. Peterson to a term ending June 30th, 2029.
I'd second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks,
Unanimous.
Scott.
Thank you
Keep up the good work.
very much. Okay, I am going to hold non-regulatory boards, Bike and Ped Committee. We're going to hold that until about 8 o'clock, and I'm going to move right into the committee appointments. Mr. Renshaw?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Cape Cod Aggregate submitted a request to the Select Board office to appoint the following individuals as certified weighers. And Madam Chair, Select Board, the attached letter, the letter is attached to your packet, is dated June 19th of this year. The individuals are Jen Quinn, Brian Studley, Robert Snow, and Edward Boosfield. If approved, these appointments would serve a term from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. And Madam Chair, it's my recommendation that the board appoint Jen Quinn, Brian Studley, Robert Snow, and Edward Boosfield as certified weighers to serve that term from July 1 through June 30th, 2025.
Madam Chair, I'll move that.
Okay, I have a
Second that.
motion. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move right into our first public hearing. And our first public hearing is a wet dock hearing, Philip Chase, application to reconstruct an existing dilapidated dock, stabilize an eroding slope by installing a concrete block retainer wall and associated clearing, grading, and landscaping located at 9 Compass Circle, East Falmouth. Area effective is Jenkins Pond. Mr. Zelinski, for the notice.
You just read it.
Oh, I just
The
read
Falmouth
it.
Select Board will hold a
Yeah,
public hearing under Section 240-14.8 Wetlands Regulations of the zoning bylaws of the town of Falmouth on Monday, July 1st, 2024, at 6:45 PM in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, 59 Town Hall Square, on the application of Philip Chase for permission to reconstruct an existing dilapidated dock, stabilize an eroding slope by installing a concrete block retaining wall, and associated clearing, grading, and landscaping located at 9 Compass Circle, East Falmouth, Mass. Area affected is Jenkins Pond. Interested parties may review the file on this application at the Office of the Select Board per order of the Falmouth Select Board. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And you're representing the applicant. Please
Yes.
introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. I'm here tonight seeking a special permit to allow Mr. Chase to rebuild a dock that's in a state of disrepair, and also to stabilize an eroding slope at the edge of Jenkins Pond. The existing dock does not have the benefit of a Chapter 91 license, so also if we are successful in getting your permission tonight, we'll proceed with the licensing through DEP for that. Prior to tonight, we went before the Falmouth Conservation Commission, who administer all the wetland rules and regulations in town, and they issued a favorable decision and order of conditions allowing the work to proceed. This is a private recreational pier, ramp, and float. It's for the purposes of passive recreation. I don't think there's any allowance for motorized boats on Jenkins Pond. So it's just for kayaks and canoes and things like that. It's, kids can swim off it and things like that. So the details for the dock are shown on the second page. This is a typical cross-section. There's an elevated walkway from the low-profile stone block wall that we're proposing on the edge that will allow access from the land. It'll then have a ramp attached to it that'll have a roller on the float, and that float will be fixed to the bottom with 4-inch galvanized pipes, and all of the requirements of Mass DEP and the Falmouth wetland regulations have been met. We're providing required clearance underneath the walkway. Jenkins Pond is a great pond, so the public has rights along the shoreline. And this low-profile concrete block wall will mitigate against the potential for further erosion. There's minor erosion, and the owner and applicant are trying to be proactive instead of reactive to the potential for erosion into the pond. So that's why that is being proposed in this application. I think that sums it up. I'm happy to take questions.
Questions from the board?
I do.
Mr. Zelinski?
Mike, those are the 3x5 blocks with like the Lego blocks?
Yes.
What ties those in? Is there any buttress system in the back side of that to hold it, or is it just that aggregate that's holding it behind?
The height of the wall is such that there's no need for any tiebacks or anything. It's just the mass of the blocks themselves and the crushed stone behind it. So the height of the wall is only 4 feet.
But you're going to mount something to the top of that wall, correct? The top part of that structure is mounted to the top of that.
Yes, that's going to just be fastened into the top block. That'll probably be bored in and lag bolted into the top of those blocks.
And you don't think it'd been a good idea to try to buttress that or dead man that wall at any point?
I honestly don't think it's necessary.
Okay, you're the engineer. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any questions, Mr. Brown?
I was going to ask the same question. I believe those blocks have interlocking lips
Yeah.
on the back of them to hold them together, right?
Yeah, they're like giant Legos, like
Yeah.
Mr. Zelinski said. Yep.
Any other questions? Ms. Goldstone?
Can you just clarify the public access along the shoreline would essentially be in front of that wall underneath the dock if someone were to try to walk the edge of the pond?
Yes, you're supposed to provide 5 foot of clearance where ordinary high water meets the shore, so that you can duck underneath the walkway. There's another way to do it with access stairs up and over, but it's more cumbersome, and there's a potential for liability for that.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just one curious question. It doesn't
Go ahead,
really,
Mr. Brown.
does it get removed in winter?
This one is probably going to be fitted with a bubbler, so it doesn't have to be removed, because it's hard to get access to haul it and pull it, and then he doesn't have a lot of room to store it on his land, so he's going to use a bubbler system.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I would move approval.
I'm going to actually get.
Oh, excuse me, I
public comment.
forgot.
That's okay. Anyone here for public comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I would move approval as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thank you.
Mr.
Have a
Borselli.
good evening.
Two.
Okay, we'll move into our second public hearing. The applicant is asking to approve an application filed by Bad Martha's Farmer Brewery, LLC, for a farmer winery pouring license to be exercised at 876 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth. Mr. Zelinski for the notice, please.
Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Bad Martha's Farmers Brewery LLC has applied for a farmer winery pouring license to be exercised at 876 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth, Mass. A hearing on the above application will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, July 1st, 2024, at 6:45 p.m. Comments may be sent to selectboard@falmouthma.gov per order of the Select Board. Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin P. Zelinski, Douglas C. Brown, Robert P. Muscali, Heather M. H. Goldstone.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Renshaw, do you have any comments on this before we get started?
I
with
do,
the
Madam Chair, real
applicants?
quickly. I just wanted to point out to the board that the Bad Martha's Farmers Brewery LLC is applying for what's referred to as a 19B N farmer winery license. A new 19H pouring permit is being applied for. It's our understanding in a separate application. The applicant states in the application that the farmer winery pouring license will be exercised on the basement level of the premises located at 876 East Falmouth Highway. And also wanted to point out the police department has reviewed the application and has no objections to its approval. And the fire rescue department has also reviewed the application and has no concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Renshaw. Hello?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Select Board. My name is Tyler Hensler. I'm here on behalf of Bad Martha Farmers Brewery, located at 876 East Falmouth Highway. Joining me this evening is Joshua Flanders. He's the manager of record, and Jonathan Blum is in the audience. He is the owner of the business. Bad Martha is looking to add wine to their menu at their East Falmouth location. This would be, again, in addition to their current offerings of craft beer. We have filed and gotten approved at the required applications to do just that, to add wine to the menu at both the TTB, which is a federal agency, and the state level at the ABCC. We are therefore here before the Falmouth Select Board applying for a winery pouring license to serve wine and the associated alteration of premises to incorporate that winery pouring area into our existing pouring license that covers the rest of the tap room. Nothing else at this location is changing. We're simply adding menu items, frankly. And we're doing so in a way that the state tells us to do, and in a way that my office has been successful with in the past. Bad Martha has been operating in Massachusetts for 10 years at their location in Edgartown, Massachusetts, and at this location in East Falmouth for 5 years. This location opened right before COVID started and obviously has seen many challenges between then and now. The addition of wine is a way for them, in the face of those challenges, to increase revenue and, frankly, to stay afloat and to continue to serve the community of Falmouth. During the past 5 years, they've also had many customers request offerings other than beer. For people who may not be the biggest beer lovers, but who want the experience and the atmosphere of an authentic tap room. In fact, anyone that's been to Bad Martha can attest they have a very unique space where you can find anyone from the residents of the several nursing homes to babies in strollers with their parents, of course, when the weather's nice. And this unique space attracts many different people from lifelong residents of Falmouth to first-time vacationers. So it makes sense that the demand for things outside of beer exists. We point to these many requests as evidence of the public need for a location, or for a license at this location. Further, the character and fitness of the applicant is also strong, as they have successfully operated a brewery pouring license in the area for 5 years, as well as another license located in Massachusetts. In 10 years, Bad Martha has not received a violation at either locations that we're aware of. They also give back to the community through charitable donations, and of course, employing members of the community, both seasonal and permanent, like Josh here. The manager of record will be, on the new pouring license, will be Josh Flanders. He is currently the manager of record on the brewery pouring license at this location, so he has experience. He's familiar with the rules and regulations pertaining to the sale and service of alcohol at this board, the ABCC, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He's also a Massachusetts resident and a U.S. citizen. With that, we're happy to take any questions, but we'd like to thank you for your time this evening.
Questions from the board? Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I do have, we've been receiving a lot of concerned emails from the neighbors and abutters across the street, generally in the area across from the front yard where a lot of the activity takes place. So my concern is that this front yard activity seems to be getting larger and louder as time goes on. We've had complaints in the past. They seem to quiet down a bit, but now that this new application has come up, they've resurfaced. And we had one lady who sent us some photographs with the speakers pointing at the road and the temporary pop-up raw bar. I understand that you tried to add a raw bar, but were unsuccessful, and now I guess it appears occasionally. I'd like to know more about the raw bar, how that...
I'll point to Josh.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a raw bar Friday, Saturday, and Sunday right now, just with oysters and cocktail shrimp. It's manned by one person on our patio. People place the orders as they normally would, and we deliver the orders as we normally would. I can't really point to it and say it's brought any more people or any more business or added any noise, but people do enjoy having that. Obviously, seafood and oysters is a big draw on the Cape, and we've had plenty of customers look favorably at the addition. It's something we only do pretty much this time of year through Labor Day. That's really the only time we have the demand for it. But it's probably about 150 to 200 oysters a weekend, so nothing crazy. But if there's any way we could improve that operation, we'd be happy to get feedback on that.
So obviously oysters and eating oysters doesn't make any noise,
Right.
or not too much. But the thing is, I'm concerned with is now we're going to add another service. It's just going to make, hopefully, make your business more busy, have more people. The more activity, the more people talking, the louder the music gets. I'm wondering, is there any way we can reorient the center of activity more to the side of the building, away from the front? Like right now, everything's up against the building, projecting out across, the closest neighbors are across the street. So, I mean, you would think it wouldn't be a problem because it's across the street, busy road, but apparently it is kind of.
But before Josh addresses the specific concerns about the physical, possible rearrangement or any adjustments, I would like to point out that, this addition of wine is contemplated not to draw in, wine lovers from all across the country, but rather, if there's a party, say, of 4 people that come in and 3 like beer and 1 doesn't like beer, right now all we have is beer.
I certainly understand that, and I agree with you.
So
if there wasn't these concerns, I would be saying it's a great idea, and I still say it's a great idea. In fact, I was at the Cape Cod Winery on Friday, and I was saying, why don't you guys add beer? And they think it's a challenge. I don't know, but
I can tell you it's definitely a complex issue to add one, but we're trying to do it here. But of course we're open to working with the town, and Josh will can address any specific concerns you have with a possible trying to rearrange some of the space.
those are my initial concerns, so I'll wait for.
Mr. Skelly, did you have a question? And then I'll go to Ms. Goldstone.
I do. So you're contemplating adding space in the basement, 1,400 and some odd square feet. You want to say something, so go ahead.
So, again, this is the way that the state makes us do it. It is not our intention to physically allow people into the basement to drink wine in our basement. But the way that the state makes us do it is you have to find first an unlicensed area to license at the federal level to be a, quote, winery. We've done that, and the only unlicensed space was in the basement. It's been approved at the federal level. We then go to the state, and the state asks, how do you connect that area to the pouring area that currently exists at the space? And the way that you have to do it, you have to draw a line through the basement. So you'll see that that is the only reason that the basement is in play here. And that's why the 19H alteration of premises license is so crucial that we filed it. We didn't wait. We put it right behind it so that hopefully you approve both at the same time, and we can now pour beer and wine in all of the spaces that we can currently pour beer, which is upstairs. So it is not our intention to allow people downstairs at all. So we're not expanding the pouring area in that sense, but technically from a licensing standpoint, our pouring area will include the part of the basement to connect that federally licensed winery with the current pouring area to allow for that continuity. It just makes logical sense to be able to pour wine where you can pour beer.
And thank you for the clarification, because I was missing that throughout my reading. But I guess my question is more about parking, because I know parking sometimes gets very tight there, and people are over, where Mahoney's is. I mean, do you anticipate, is there any parking increase requirements as a result of this? Would there be?
None that I'm aware of, no requirements.
Again, this is just the addition of a menu item, and it's, we're contemplating just offering something to the people that might not care for beer. Again, the wine that we're bringing in, I don't think is going to draw droves of extra people. but just, offer an option for people that are already visiting the business that we aren't taking advantage of right now.
I'll say real quick, we're lucky to have Mahoney's right next to us, who are a great neighbor that we have a great relationship with. And, I think at times there is a little overflow into their parking lot, and luckily that hasn't been an issue at all and with them. And, there's always space available over there for parking. I think there's not a lot of overlap. Their season tends to be more spring focused, and then we get busier towards the summer. They're also more focused towards the early morning and afternoon, whereas we're more of an evening. So that happens to work out very well, where the two of us can kind of take advantage of each other's space a little bit.
Thank you. Thanks.
Ms. Goldstone, in 1 second, you can join them at the podium. Go ahead.
So I agree that the noise complaints of neighbors need to be addressed, but I don't think that's the issue tonight, and I don't think necessarily that this permit really affects that, because as I understand those complaints, they're more about the amplification and the behavior of the management, not the behavior of the
Customers?
the patrons. My question is around the nature of this permit. So it's a farmer winery license to be able to produce, mix, what have you, and then to be able to sell and pour your own products and products that you are making. So is there an intent to be making your own wine at Bad Martha's?
Not on any scale that would impact anything, from a, zoning standpoint. So we are licensed federally. It's a small room in the basement. We do have a sort of, excuse my phrasing, but home brew setup. I don't know the technical term for it, but it's a very small setup. And we'd use that to experiment with maybe a brew here or there, a different brew of wine. But for the most part, what this license really allows us to do, and practically speaking, this is what we will be doing, is to contract with another winery to get white label product, put our label on it, and sell it on the premises. So there's not going to be any large-scale manufacture of wine by any means.
But there will be some.
Very, very sporadically. I don't anticipate us, that Josh can speak more to the specifics, but I think that not for it would be more for like a home brew situation. But we're going to be importing the vast, vast majority of this wine. I don't think that there's going to be much manufacture of wine at this location for the public consumption.
Mr. Zelinski?
To piggyback off Ms. Goldstone's question, I guess, are you under any special permits there?
Are you from a zoning standpoint?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Josh and Jonathan could.
Yeah, I believe we are. I don't have it in front of me to know the specifics.
Well, that would probably be a good thing to have in front of you to answer questions, just like the parking or any of that.
Well, I will say that.
Can I finish?
Oh, please.
Because it may have language in there of altering the premises, either outside or inside. And you may want to look at that, if you're under a permit, you may want to look at that and make sure it doesn't supersede anything we're giving you permission for tonight.
Absolutely.
Or we're contemplating giving you permission for.
Yeah.
And this new state license that you're describing, does that split your business model, or does it mandate that there's two different business licenses with the state?
No.
Two different liquor licenses with the state?
So I'll address your first part of the question first. To get here, we worked with a woman named Phyllis Downey, who I know is on vacation, I believe. But she made us go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get approval. They reviewed this license, said it won't impact zoning at all. So hopefully that takes care of that concern.
And you have that?
I have it.
Met with who?
I have the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Here in town?
Yes.
Okay.
I have an email that I can send to you, but they had no issue with this. And the second part of your question, if there's two liquor licenses here, yes and no. So at the state level, we now have a farmer brewery license and a farmer winery license. Those are manufacturing level licenses. But at the local level, we are applying for the new winery license. So there's now a farmer brewery pouring and a farmer winery pouring license. But the 19H alteration of premises practically combines those into one 19H pouring license, so you can pour beer and wine. So while there are, multiple liquor licenses at play here, I count 4, it's still the same business. Bad Martha Farmers Brewery LLC is the only business, with their name on the liquor license.
And I would just make one more question to Mr. Flanders. Just because your next door neighbor allows you to do overflow parking it's not part of your permit or your license. I mean, it's nice to have friends next door, but that wouldn't sway us one way or the other, at least not me. It's got to be written down and documented, so.
If I may, I just want to underscore one thing, which is we're simply adding a menu item. I'm sorry, I own the business. I'm Jonathan Blum. He introduced me earlier. I apologize for not reintroducing myself. We're just simply asking to pour the wine that we've already received a license from the state and the federal on. I don't believe you're going to see hundreds of people coming to Bad Martha for wine. That's not our intent. I've been in the restaurant business over 40 years. And really, if you have a family of 4 people and 3 of you like beer, like Tyler said, and 1 of you don't, the one person who doesn't sits there and says, gee, what am I doing here? And so we're just offering him or her something on our menu. And that's really all it comes down to. That's what we're trying to do.
Mr. Muscala, you had a question?
Yeah, just the location on the vineyard, does that have a wine pouring license?
No, we don't.
It does not?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
That one's, my mom lived in Falmouth since 1982 and died at 96, but, so that's why I'm in Falmouth, but I live on the island. But what I would say to you is that's a much smaller operation. It's a third the size of what we have here.
And second question is the wine available for sale that people can buy at your winery and bring home, or not like the Cape Cod winery?
No, we don't have any plans for that.
You don't have any, okay.
We really we're not changing our branding or anything. We're still Bad Martha Brewery. We're not going to be, when we talk about this homebrew size winery, we may do some recipe experimentation. Most likely we won't be doing any wine producing on site, because it just doesn't make sense to us, and it's really, we want this to be an option for people, but it's not going to change our identity or anything. The focus is still on the beer, and we're still ultimately a brewery, and that's what we're going to be creating there.
Mr. Brown?
I have a question then. Wouldn't it make more sense to just simply add a beer and wine license?
I will take that. Liquor license attorneys like me get very excited when people ask questions like that. That is against the law, quite frankly. So ancient Prohibition-era laws were enacted in Massachusetts to regulate liquor licenses. And Section 12 licenses that you're talking about, restaurant beer and wine licenses, you're prohibited to own those if you own either a manufacturer or a wholesaler license. So it's vertical integration. It's basically an anti-monopoly Prohibition-era law. So if you own even 1% of interest in a brewery or a winery or a distillery at the manufacturing level in Massachusetts, you are not allowed to own any percentage, 0.001%, of a on-premise or off-premise license. So that's restaurants, package stores, bars, clubs, anything. So to answer your question, yes, it would be easier, but this is the way that the ABCC makes us do it.
But given the fact that you've just said that you're probably not going to make wine, it just seems like unusual request.
So I will say this. 5 years ago, I would have agreed with you. It is unusual, but this is a growing trend in the brewery community. My office alone has done this for several breweries throughout Massachusetts successfully, including Night Shift, Jack's Abbey, Trillium, Ipswich Ale, Riverwalk Brewery. We're currently doing the same at Provincetown Brewery, Dorchester Brewery, Buzzards Bay Brewery. They're all adding either beer. If they're a winery, they're adding beer. If they're a brewery, they're adding winery and distilleries. So it's a growing trend, and you might see it, in the coming months with other businesses in Falmouth. So 5 years ago, it was unusual, but it's a growing trend throughout the state, quite frankly.
Interesting.
Any other questions from the board? Comments from the board?
I have another
Mr. Brown,
comment.
go ahead.
I agree with Ms. Goldstone's comment that the entertainment is not before us tonight. It's really a matter of just whether or not we feel wine is appropriate. But we do have the comments from the neighbors that have been brought up, and very thoughtful comments. And one person who commented testified that they were a mother of a first responder and knows how busy they are. That's the reason she hasn't called in all these years and months, and all the times when she's unable to contact people. Maybe you don't hear the phone or whatever it is. I don't know the particulars of it, but just that that person is reluctant to call for that reason. And I think we get a lot of those comments from people. They don't want to bother the police. It's been our standard for years that if you have a noise concern, call the police, but people are reluctant to do it. So, and inevitably, we get the comments, so that's why I'm bringing it up now.
May I address that, please, Mr. Brown? please?
Certainly.
Um,
Do you please use the mic?
You need to be at the microphone.
People are at home too, listening.
I'm sorry. So I've heard that, and I want to be a respectful neighbor and good part of the community. So we bought a decibel machine, and we are within the regulation always. We're never excessive, and we go across the street. There are two neighbors in particular who I communicate with regularly. We have we take that decibel level to make sure that we're always below and never in excess of your regulation. So I understand they live across from a commercial business in a commercial area, and I respect that. And we don't want to do anything that's going to upset their quiet enjoyment of their own home. We're within the guidelines always. We don't exceed it. We've moved the speakers as we were requested to do. We've planted. We've done as much as we possibly can. We're a business, quite frankly, that is struggling post-COVID. We opened 6 months before COVID. It hit us hard. We couldn't get a PPP loan because we weren't open a year. So I've personally been funding this business, losing money every year and keeping the staff afloat, doing everything I possibly can for the community. I've never taken a dime out of our business. It all goes back to the staff and to charity. So I'm hoping you will be supportive of us. We're trying to be a good neighbor as best we can, and we have an open line of communication, and I've communicated with many times with those two neighbors and have given them my phone number, email, Josh's phone number, his email, Ralph's phone number, his email. I don't know what more we can do. That it's a commercial area, but we're trying to be respectful.
I will say also that it's interesting that you say you've gone across the street with the meter, because our standard is that the noise shall not emanate beyond the property line. So if you're going across the street and measuring it,
you can't hear it. I'm saying you cannot hear it. We're not in excess of the decibel level.
We haven't even set that.
We don't have a decibel.
Well, there is the town.
For wind turbines, there is, yeah.
Okay, well,
It's good that you're thinking along those lines. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we went to
but-
that extent because we want to make sure we're being a good neighbor.
Right, but it's not really a decibel meter that you're looking for. It's just the fact that you really shouldn't be hearing it beyond your property. I know admittedly, I've said this before, it's not practical, but that's the target. So that's why I'm mentioning that even a small amount of increased activity out on that patio may have some impact that maybe we're not
We'll do the best we
perceiving.
can. I mean, that's a good suggestion. We'll see if we can move something, but at the end of the day, I sure hope this business can stay afloat, and we're going to try and do everything we can and hope that you'll help us with it through this permit. I'm giving it the best shot I can.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just one last for Mr. Bloom, if I could. I know you're experiencing financial difficulty now because of the COVID and all, and you're trying to make a comeback, but at some point, do you think there's any hope for my suggestion of reorienting the crowd to the side maybe a little more and a little less function in the front?
So the side being, I'm not really sure where.
Well, I'm not really sure either,
Oh.
but I'm just saying, right now, you're up against the wall, projecting out toward the front. Is there any
The speakers
reorientation?
go the other way. the speakers face toward the building.
I think he means where the outside dining area is.
Well, I'm just going by the photos that I was looking at this weekend, just didn't look that way to me. It looked like everything
I'd
was
be happy to move people
facing-
to the field if, that's allowable, but at the end of the day, we're doing the best we can. I mean, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, just give it some thought.
I'll meet
and-
you over there if you like.
And I agree with Ms. Goldstone, as I said, that I don't think we need to hold up your winery just because of some concerns about noise, but I don't want to ask you to come back here again, or have the chair ask you to come back again for a noise thing, if we can think of some creative way to make it more palatable for
Sure,
the
and
neighbors.
as I say, I'll be happy to meet you over there anytime, if you'd like to walk the property and see what we could do. I'm happy to do that.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to do that, but
Okay.
just
Well,
throwing it out there, maybe you could try to come up with some creative ideas.
Okay.
Ms. Goldstone, did you have a comment?
These are just questions for the
Go
applicant right
ahead.
now. I have a question for town council, if I might.
Go ahead.
Just would love to get your take on whether this proposed plan of, I guess it says the pouring permit covers products produced for them and sold under their brand name, so having wine brought in, white label, and labeled Bad Martha meets the requirements of this license.
Yes, I know that this looks really confusing, like it's not supposed to work this way, but this is the way that this kind of, these farmer series pouring licenses work. It is convoluted because they sort of came up at different times over the course of the last 15 years or so, and it used to be that if you had a farmer brewery license, you could only ever sell beer, make beer and sell it there. Same thing with the wineries. You had to make the wine there and sell your own wine. And once the craft beer boom happened, people realized that that wasn't really a good business model anymore. But the Liquor Control Act just doesn't change that quickly. It's arcane to begin with. And so what they did is they made a patchwork of sort of duct tape and baling wire to cross-hatch all of these different farmer series licenses together. And over the top of it, they put this pouring license so that you could have different kinds of alcohol be served at whatever farmer series you had. But they made you put like a little cask of wine in the basement in order to sell a glass of wine upstairs. And that's exactly what they're trying to do here. This looks ridiculous on paper, but this is exactly what the state and the federal government make you do. I've looked at these applications. I know that the licensing administration for the select board has reviewed these and gone over them ad nauseum with the ABCC. And it looks silly, but this is exactly what they need to do in order to be able to sell one glass of wine upstairs.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's big. I'm going to take one more comment, and then we need to hear from the public.
Just back to council again. So what I'm a little misunderstanding is the sequence here. It seems to me, I mean, there's an application for the pouring license, and then there's the application for the alteration.
Right.
Okay. And it looks like we're taking the application for the pouring license first, and then the application for the alteration. It seems like we might have it backwards, no?
No, and in fact, I attended a training just last week with the ABCC where the general counsel of the state agency went over this whole series, and this is exactly how you do it. You have to create this winery in a basement downstairs, and then you alter the premise to incorporate both kinds of pouring series into one area, into the serving area upstairs.
Okay, thank you.
Attorney O'Keefe, I could not have said it any better myself.
You're welcome.
Any other
We're
comments
outstanding,
from
by the way.
the board?
In the field.
Okay, I'm now going to open it up to public comment on this application. Yes, sir. You need to come to the podium, sir.
My name is Charles Walsh, and I am one of the abutters, and Mr. Brown is very familiar with my complaints. My complaints is about the noise level from your music.
Mr. Walsh, over here. You need to speak to the board, please, okay?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm a retired teacher, and I'm not, it's been so long since I've done presentations. Anyways, I have a very strong sense of fairness. The traffic problem, I don't care about. It doesn't affect my life. The parking, it doesn't bother me. Why do I care about the parking? They deal with that. What bothers me is I'm inside my house without my hearing aids, with our new $5,500 windows, and I can still hear them. And what I'm hearing is all afternoon. It's ridiculous. I've contacted them about it, and it's a decibel thing. But I can still hear it. Contacted Mr. Brown several times. He's been very, very great with us, and he's calling them up to complain. Is this working? No. Sorry. No.
Speak to us.
Call the police for the first time in my life about anything. They come over, within 5 minutes, talk to them, and voila, no music for 15 minutes, and then it starts again. I'm not in favor of any additional seating over there. My opinion is it's already too big for a residential neighborhood. My neighbor, I'm 79 years old, going to be 80. I'm too old for that. Most of my neighbors are either retired or about to retire. They're in my age group. And it's a real negative on our lifestyles. We should be able to enjoy our house without having to hear it bump, bump, bump. Is there anybody here who would like to live with that? Is there anyone in here who would change places with me? Is there anyone here who would buy my house? Absolutely not. We bought our house 48 years ago. Tanya's was there. If Bad Mothers had been there, we would have bought the house. Too noisy. And the traffic I don't care about, parking I don't care about. The noise is a real negative on and it does not allow me to enjoy my life. I'm sorry about the venting. I'm very, very upset. I've been living with this for years, trying to work with them, trying to work with everything, and it's not working. It's not working.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else here for public comment on this application?
Madam Chair, could we have a moment to address those concerns? Just very briefly?
In 1 minute.
Okay.
I'm waiting to see if there's any other public comment. Okay, there is none. Go ahead, sir.
Before Josh gets into the specifics on the outreach that's been done with the neighbors and this gentleman in specific, I will add, he mentioned that he was concerned about additional seating or the business getting bigger than it already is. There's no additional seating that we're applying for with this license. I just wanted to make that clear. And with that, I'll give it to Josh.
Absolutely. Mr. Walsh, have we met?
Sir, you need to address the board,
Okay.
not someone in the audience,
Just
please.
tell us what you will
Thank you.
maybe do to
I don't
help.
believe I've ever met Mr. Walsh or had any communication from him. Ever.
Mr. Walsh, it's his opportunity.
I'd be happy to work with him. If anyone on premise can do something about noise, I'm the person. I'm there usually 7 days a week and can easily get in contact with whoever's working, whoever can make a quick change. And anytime anyone reaches out with any concerns about noise or anything for that matter, I'm very quick to give my personal contact information, my cell phone, my email address, and I don't know Mr. Walsh. So to hear that is surprising to me because for sure I would have, tried to alleviate any issues if he contacted me in the moment and said, listen, I hear your music, the bass is too high, whatever. I'd turn it down immediately. I don't know him. I haven't met him. So to hear that is surprising to me, and hopefully we can have a better report after this meeting and I can get to know him and take his concern seriously.
Thank you. Any further comment, public comment? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion amongst the board.
I've talked a lot, but
Mr.
I'll
Brown?
go again. So I would say that I'm glad that we've had this opportunity to speak to the applicant about the noise, even though it wasn't really part of this application. It's good that they've addressed it. And I certainly understand the need to add the wine. And I know they're not intending to add seats, but the reason that you're adding the wine is because you feel like it might enhance the business, which might add some more customers. So there will likely to be some increase of revenue, hopefully, and that means a little more activity. So that's why I brought up the noise thing, so that you can think about it a little bit more, try to be a little more focused. I appreciate your comments about reaching out to the gentleman and, give him maybe your phone number that he can get a hold of you more easily. Maybe make sure those speakers are turned and try to think about that end of the property line noise limitation and see if there's a way that can work for you. But I wouldn't say that should hold up the wine, just that should make a little more focus on neighborly
So
practice,
are you making a motion, Mr. Brown?
unless there's any more discussion.
I look at it as a menu change. I mean, it doesn't change any, in my opinion, it doesn't change anything other than what they're allowed to do right now. And if they're in line with everything they're supposed to be doing, it's not like they're asking for a hard liquor license, so I'd be all right with it.
Or a dance band.
Any
No,
other comments?
I would agree with both what Mr. Zelinski and Mr. Brown said. I think it's a reasonable request, and it seems to be where the industry is going with these types of licenses. So.
And honestly, I think that the brewery thing is making a lot more local revenue for a lot of people, and I think it's a good thing, so if we can support it, I'd like to. So I make a motion to...
Someone want to make a motion?
Heather has...
Nope, go for it.
Any more? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the application filed by Bad Martha's Farmer Brewery LLC for a farmer winery pouring license to be exercised at 876 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, we're going to move into the second application filed by Bad Martha's Farmers Brewery LLC for alteration premises. Mr. Zelinski for the
Thank you,
notice.
Madam Chair. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of General Laws as amended that Bad Martha's Farmers Brewery LLC has applied for alteration of premises to its farmer brewery pouring license to be exercised at 876 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth, Mass. A hearing on the above application will be held in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, July 1st, 2024, at 6:45 p.m. Comments may be sent to selectboard@falmouthma.gov. Per order of the Select Board, Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin P. Zelinski, Douglas C. Brown, Robert P. Muscali, Heather M.H. Goldstone.
Thank you. Any questions? I think we've gone over this, but are there any questions on this second application? Any questions from the board?
Can't you make a little wine?
Not our intent at first, but maybe down the line. I'm not,
It might be fun.
maybe.
Okay, if there aren't any questions or comments from the board, I will open it for public comment on this application. Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion amongst the board.
No,
It's just an
This is the
ancillary
second
piece of
step of
person.
the,
Go
of the
forward.
process.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the application for an alteration of premises to obtain a 19H pouring license for Bad Martha's Farmers Brewery.
I'll second Ms. Goldstone's motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
council, for a good presentation and helping us
Okay, we're going to move
understand it.
on to approve an application filed by Tap City Inc., doing business as Tap City Grill for transfer of all alcoholic beverages, common victualler license. Mr. Zelinski for the notice.
Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Tap City 2, Inc., doing business as Tap City Grill, has applied for a transfer license of all alcoholic beverage license located at 285 Main Street, Falmouth, Mass. An application for a common victular license has also been submitted. A hearing on the above application will be held at the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, July 1st, 2024, at 6:45 p.m. Comments may be sent to selectboard@falmouthma.gov per order of the Select Board. Licensing Board, Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin P. Zelinski, Douglas C. Brown, Robert P. Muscali, Heather Goldstone.
Thank you, Mr. Zelinski. Any comments, Mr. Renshaw?
Real quickly, Madam Chair, I just want to draw the board's attention at the license application review form and the fact that both the police department and fire rescue have reviewed the applications and have no concerns or issues to their approval.
Thank you. You're here to represent the applicant?
I am. Good evening. My name's Jeff Nickerson. I'm an attorney here in town. I'm here this evening with Rob Simmons, who will be the liquor license manager if this is approved by the board and the ABCC. Also here this evening is Ben Sorrell, one of the principals of Tap City 2, Inc. He and his business partner, Chris Canitas, own several restaurants further down Cape, the Yarmouth House, De Parma, Tap City, and Hyannis, and Scally's Irish Ale House. The management group has several decades of positive experience in the industry and are looking forward to opening here in Falmouth if the board approves the application for the transfer of the restaurant liquor license and the common victualer's license. The current restaurant is Shivrix. It's owned by Olives Restaurants, Inc. If approved, the seating will remain the same, 62 seats, including the seats at the bar. No outside seating. The menu's going to be American popular food, pizza, burgers, seafood, salads, pasta. Hours would be from 11:30 a.m. to midnight with no breakfast service. Again, Mr. Simmons is from Falmouth, and Derek Schneider, who will also be a manager at the premises, is also a Falmouth resident, and the hope is to hire Falmouth residents and Falmouth area folks to serve as staff at the restaurant. So hope to answer any questions that you might have, and we'd ask you to approve the transfer.
Questions or comments from the board?
I just would comment, I see mention of a floor plan and an outdoor seating plan, but I don't see any plan in my packet. And is this necessary because it's just a transfer that we don't need to submit the plan as long as it stays the same? Did it stay the same?
It does stay the same.
Okay.
That may have been honestly, that may have been just a typo, an inadvertent entry into that attachment. So if there's nothing in the packet, then the office staff didn't include anything.
We've actually reviewed this particular site a few times in the last years, so I'm very familiar with it. As long as there's no changes, I'm fine with that.
Any other questions or comments of
But-
the applicant?
No,
Mr.
just,
Muscali?
I mean, you just said there was outdoor seating?
No,
No, right? I
No,
mean,
I said-
there is no outdoor seating, right,
There
John?
is
You-
no-
you
I'm
said
just
that.
saying that it makes mention of it.
Okay,
That is a part of the packet typically.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I will look for any public comment on this application. Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Discussion amongst the board.
I would move approval as presented. It's just to
I'll
get
second Mr. Brown's
get that place going again.
I hope somebody can make a vote.
Okay, so motion to approve the application filed by Tap City 2, Inc., DBA Tap City Grill for transfer of all alcoholic beverages, common victualler license to be exercised at 285 Main Street, Falmouth, and I heard a second.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into our final public hearing, approve the application filed by Marcantonis Restaurant Group, Inc., doing business as Estia for a change of manager. Mr. Zelinski for the
Madam
notice.
Chair, notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of General Laws as amended that Marcantonis Restaurant Group, Inc., doing business as Estia, has applied for a change of ownership interest, change of officers/directors, and a change of managers to its all alcohol beverage license, restaurant license located at 117 Main Street, Falmouth, Mass. A hearing on the above application will be held at the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, July 1st, 2024, at 6:45 p.m. Comments may be sent to selectboard@falmouthma.gov per order of the Select Board Licensing Board. Nancy Robbins Taylor, Edwin P. Zelinski, Douglas C. Brown, Robert P. Muscali, Heather M.H. Goldstone.
Thank you, Mr. Zelinski. You're here to represent the applicant,
I am the applicant.
and you are?
My name's Dimitri Marcantonis,
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate you all being here to listen. And I'm here today because my father passed away about 6 months ago. My parents and I opened up Estia Falmouth in late 2018, and we've been in business almost 6 years serving our community there. Just kind of going through some logistical changes since the liquor license was under his name, obviously. I have been there as the GM since day one, and naturally we need to move it from his name to my own.
Okay. Questions from the board or comments from the board?
Totally understandable.
I would say sorry for the loss of your dad,
Thank you.
and everything's going to remain the same, just change of officer, right?
That's right.
And you will be the tip certified
Yeah, and
supervisor?
yes, and as I have been this whole time.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any public comment regarding this application? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion amongst the board.
Easy beans.
I would just move approval if I need a, is there a particular motion? Thank you.
Yep.
I make a motion to approve the application filed by Mark Antonius Restaurant Group Incorporated, doing business as Estia, for a change of manager, change of ownership, and a change of officers, directors of its all-alcoholic beverage restaurant license to be executed at 117 Main Street, Falmouth.
Madam Chair, I'll second Mr. Brown's motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very
Good
much.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to move into business, and business item number one is a report on affordable housing. Mr. Garrison, and I'm going to limit you to 15 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, members of the Select Board, my name is David Garrison. I'm Chair of the Affordable Housing Committee, and I'm pleased to present the annual report on our committee's activities during the past fiscal year. I provided you with a one-page outline of the committee's various activities during the year. I want to summarize that report and give you a few thoughts about areas of focus for our committee in the next year. Our committee held 11 regularly scheduled monthly meetings, and we had to cancel our February meeting due to a lack of a quorum. We held one joint meeting with the Planning Board to discuss the draft housing production plan. We interviewed 7 housing projects. We reviewed 7 housing projects that contained within their plan some number of affordable housing units. We also reviewed the concept ideas for the use of town-owned property on Davisville Road as presented to us by the town planner and the housing coordinator. We reviewed 2 draft documents, the housing production plan and the LIP review guidelines. Several committee members also considered a proposal from a local group that Falmouth look at a program called Lease to Locals. This is an innovative program now in effect in several municipalities elsewhere in the United States. That's designed to encourage property owners who rent their units for short terms to switch to 12-month leases. Incentive funding from the town would be required in such a program. Our committee made 3 formal recommendations to the Select Board during the year. We recommended that the town create a new full-time position of assistant to the housing coordinator. Increasing the number of affordable housing units is on the short list of top priorities for the town. There is now a building queue of assisted housing proposals coming before the town for review. As a result, our hardworking housing coordinator's workload is bursting at the seams. Having only 1 staff person assigned to oversee the complex flow of these projects, as well as to guide town officials in the consideration of new initiatives and updated processes, is unwise. We continue to urge the town manager and the Select Board to act favorably on this recommendation. We recommended that the town transfer $2 million from the general fund into the Falmouth Affordable Housing Trust. As this board knows, the trust does not have enough resources to respond positively to all the proposed affordable housing projects now coming through the town's review process or that are about to begin that journey.
The trust is particularly short of funds to support the creation of deed-restricted units for those with incomes between 80 and 120% of area median income, the so-called missing middle. We continue to urge the town to act on this recommendation. We recommended that the town adopt a home rule petition to be sent for approval to the state legislature seeking the authority to implement a real estate transfer fee. Happily, the town manager joined in our recommendation, and this board supported the idea, putting it on the April town meeting warrant. Town meeting approved the article in a voice vote, and the board recently approved the text of the petition. The not-so-happy news is that the governor's proposal for a general authority for all Massachusetts municipalities to implement a transfer fee has been left out of the pending housing bill in the legislature in both the House and Senate versions, apparently thanks largely to opposition from realtors. The prospects that the legislature will act separately on the numerous home rule petitions before it is not good. It appears we will need to continue to work on getting sufficient support at the state level for this important proposal. Finally, our committee supported 2 public outreach sessions on affordable housing this past year. We presented the real estate transfer fee proposal to a public meeting held at the Falmouth Senior Center, and we were a co-sponsor of a successful panel presentation by the heads of several housing organizations at a public session held in this room. The session was led by the Falmouth Housing Partnership. As to the committee's focus in the year ahead, we will of course continue to review housing proposals containing assisted units in our monthly meetings. We will also continue to support efforts to get state legislative support for the real estate transfer fee. We may continue discussions about the feasibility of the proposed lease to locals program that could shift some rental units into year-round leases. Our committee has also been tracking whether and how the town acts to implement several of the strategic objectives set forth in the recently updated housing production plan. Our committee currently has 6 members and 1 vacancy. We may lose another member and thus have 2 vacancies. I've been casting about for possible candidates who might be interested in applying to this board to join our committee. If board members have suggestions of individuals I might contact who are qualified for this assignment and who might be interested, by all means let me know. Needless to say, I'm anxious to avoid having to cancel upcoming meetings due to the lack of a quorum. Thank you for this opportunity to present this report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions of Mr. Garrison? Ms. Goldstone?
Thank you for the update, and I would say the panel that you mentioned put on by the Falmouth Housing Partnership was excellent and incredibly informative, and I would encourage the group to think about doing that again and possibly on a regular basis. It was really terrific. I guess I have one question for you and maybe one question for the board and town manager, which is how do we advertise these openings so that they're more broadly known about and Mr. Garrison is not simply casting around for folks to fill those spots?
I know currently we're running newspaper advertisements for vacancies, and it's posted on the website. I think those are the 2 main vehicles to get the information out.
So share those. Mr. Garrison, my other question for you is, you provided a couple of recommendations. We have a strategic planning session later this summer as the select board, and I wonder if you had to put one thing at the top of the list for the select board to be looking at in our strategic plan for the coming year, what would that be?
Well, we made 2 recommendations, one to hire additional staff person and one to put more money in the fund. They're both important. I'm not comfortable about choosing between the 2. Those are certainly our 2 major recommendations to the board, strong recommendations. We really think the staffing needs to be increased in order to handle the flow of the work, and so we can be really aggressive about dealing with this problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Brown?
Is there any part-time assistant position now?
I'm sorry?
Does Kim have a part-time assistant?
No.
So no assistant. Okay, thank you. I should have known that.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, we're going to move into business number 2, approve the application filed by OSJL Spirits LLC, doing business as Ocean State Job Lot for a change of manager. of its wine and malt beverage package store license to be exercised at 50 T-Ticket Highway, T-Ticket, Mass. Mr. Renshaw?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant, OSJL Spirits, completed its change of manager amendment form on April 29th. That application is attached to your packets this evening. The application named Ms. Christina Ivers as the proposed new manager. According to the application, Ms. Ivers has been a store team leader since August 24th of 2021. I wanted to bring to the board's attention that both the Falmouth Police Department and Falmouth Fire Rescue have reviewed the application and have no issues or concerns with regards to its approval.
Thank you, Mr. Renshaw. And we have Christina here.
Yep.
Any questions? Seems fairly straightforward.
No. Yeah. I don't have any questions.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve the application filed by OSJL Spirits LLC, doing business as Ocean State Job Lot, for a change of manager to its wine and malt beverages package store license to be executed at 50 T-Ticket Highway, T-Ticket as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Business number 3, approve grant of license to John R. and Anna A. Bowen to provide the licensees with the non-exclusive use of certain property within the public way at the intersection of Grand Ave, a public way, and Montgomery Court, a private way. Mr., oh, we don't have a notice, I'm sorry. For the purpose of installing and maintaining cobblestone apron at said intersection. Mr. Renshaw?
Just a couple of prefacing comments. The applicant has filed this request for license to install and maintain a paver apron at the listed intersection of Grand Avenue, a public way, and Montgomery Court, which is a private way. Select Board has a copy of the diagram illustration in their packets tonight. Originally, the applicant had requested the license to include some existing cobblestone pavers at the end of the existing driveway. And I'll draw your attention to the illustration. This particular area is shown encircled in red. It's my understanding that these pavers, this apron, had been installed without proper license. The town engineer has expressed some concern with regards to pedestrian safety regarding the allowance of this license of this unauthorized section of cobblestone. And Madam Chair and Board, the town council has prepared the attached grant of license for board consideration. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Renshaw. Hi.
Hi, Madam Chair, good evening, members of the board. My name is Anthony Tsakalos. I'm an attorney at Ament Clower LLP, a law firm here in town. I'm here tonight on behalf of John and Anna Bowen, the owners of 102 and 102A Grand Avenue in Falmouth Heights, which are located on a single lot at the corner of Grand Avenue and Montgomery Court. John and Anna Bowen are here with me tonight. In June of 2022, Mr. Bowen received a license from this board to install a parking area for one vehicle on the town's layout of Grand Avenue right in front of his home. Subsequently, a cobblestone apron at the corner of Grand Avenue and Montgomery Court and an additional parking space on Montgomery Court, which is a private way, were installed at the site. Through the permitting of an unrelated matter with the zoning board, Mr. Bowen was informed excuse me, that he had committed a violation by installing these items without first obtaining a license, and that he'd need to remove the unlicensed items from the site. In order to correct the issue, I requested in January of this year that the board grant Mr. Bowen a license for the cobblestone apron at the corner and for a cobblestone apron at the base of his driveway that had existed for well over a decade, and was informed that the town manager's office could not support the application for the grant of a license to permit these items. A few months later, in April, John and I both met with Assistant Town Manager Peter Johnston-Staub, and after showing Peter photos that the pavers relative to the parking space on Montgomery Court had been removed, and after explaining the entire situation to Peter, John was allowed to reapply for a license to allow for the cobblestone apron at the corner to remain only. In May, I resubmitted a draft license agreement, therefore, to the offices of the town manager and town council, and requested a hearing on this matter before the board. Mr. Bowen is now before the board seeking permission to allow the cobblestone apron at the corner of Grand Avenue and Montgomery Court to remain in place. Beyond that, we're happy to take any questions the board may have at this time.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I have a couple historical questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Zelinski.
You guys readdressed this when with the town office?
In April.
How long has this been going? When did the construction take place?
John, do you know exactly when the construction took place?
Cobblestone apron.
Come on up.
The cobblestone apron at the corner of Montgomery Court and Grand Avenue was installed just over 2 years ago.
2 years. And when was your first notification of violation of that?
Just over 2 years ago.
So what happened in between then and now?
I've been trying to get in front of the board. It's been extremely tedious, and I've hired an engineer. I've been learning a lot during this process, and I hired someone to take a better look at the property and what was there previously, and what was existing, what was there existing at the time. And
Remember that I sat on that hearing, right?
right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what happened.
Okay, how about the bound, the historic bound? Has that been replaced and
It's been all
documented?
replaced and everything. I told those landscapers up and down not to, that affected me personally also. I'm a bit of a historian. I like history. And, but that has been properly documented by the town, and approved by the town, and the bound was put.
And there's still two dwelling units on one lot there?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And how many parking spaces are you calculating for this?
3. I was allowed to have 2 per.
This is just for the record. I'm
2
not
per
trying to
unit.
supersede any zoning board. I want to get caught up
To
on it.
move things along, I agreed. I thought I was within my rights on Montgomery Court because it was a private way, and I was informed. I was learning through this.
That was the
I tried to
amendment,
do
that was
this-
the amendment to the original special
That's right.
permit
So
we're talking
we-
about.
we-
So that was
we-
your second bite at the apple, right? Montgomery was the relief from the original special permit, correct? This is the third bite at the apple, right?
This is the second bite at the apple. This is the third bite at the apple.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions from the board?
Looks like parking is needed. It's a pretty tight lot.
It is a very tight lot, and I just would like to remind the board that the only thing that we're seeking a license for today is this cobblestone apron at the corner here. Mr. Bowen is going to remove the cobblestone here, all along this area, and he's already removed all the pavers that were in this secondary parking space that wasn't supposed to have been installed on Montgomery Court. So this has already been removed, all the pavers in this area here. So he's just seeking the license for this cobblestone apron at the corner. And the reason that he installed it is because trucks are constantly cutting the corner and just ripping up the grass, and it's just been a silly situation. He thought he had permission to do it. He didn't realize that he wasn't allowed to do it, didn't realize that it was in the town's layout of Grand Avenue, and just assumed that it was more on the Montgomery Court side, and being a private way that he had the ability to do that, so.
Did I miss something? The place where the cobblestones were put that you weren't allowed to put them, have they been taken up?
These cobblestones here have not been taken up, but he is committed to taking them up.
Those have been there for over 20 years, but we're going to take up that cobble apron right there.
They've been there since 2004, as I understand it.
Why haven't they been taken up if they're not supposed to be there?
Because I want to hire the landscaper one time, and I'll have those removed, immediately after.
He thought that he could seek after the fact permission from the board, and that was part of the first application that we had submitted, and, we were promptly told that.
Explain that, get permission from the board afterwards.
They were installed around 2004. I think the
before that.
first time that he heard that he wasn't allowed to have them was in 2022. So they've been there for 2 decades, almost, nearly.
Okay, so
before
when
he
you were
learned
notified
that.
in 2022
It was actually
that they couldn't,
recently.
let me finish.
I'm
In 2022, that they couldn't be there, they weren't taken up at that time.
I wasn't informed in 2022. This was
I
more
thought he just said
more of
20.
April of 2024.
I stand corrected if that's the case.
Mr. Brown?
I have a question now. So I guess I'm a little confused about this. We're proposing To install the pavers where it says lot size 3730, that large outlined area on the right bottom corner of the lot.
You mean this driveway area here?
No,
This-
no.
this rectangle?
right there.
Yeah.
Right.
So behind what you just talked about removing, we're talking about installing?
Right. Right now, those pavers don't exist. It's just hard, crushed shells that have turned into almost concrete.
But they are on the right-of-way. They are on Grand
On the
Avenue.
right of way, and there's this cobble strip, just 3 rows of cobble. They've been there for a long time.
So-
And when I have the pavers put there, that cobble was going to come up. If you want the cobble up sooner, I'll have a couple of guys go over there and take it up in the next, whenever they can get over there in the next 5 to 10 business days.
I see. So the cobblestones will go out and the pavers will come in. How far will the pavers extend? Back to where the cobblestones were?
Well, this is a driveway. And the pavers,
Where it's stockade fences is a driveway, or the front facing Grand Ave?
This is the driveway over here. I've asked Mr. Bowen to not install anything without a license from this town that's south of this property line.
Okay.
Would the board like to see the existing condition as of today?
I just really just rather have a better explanation of what the proposed work is. Are we installing new pavers where the shells are now?
yes,
Removing the cobbles at the roadway?
Yes.
And then reinstalling pavers in that same location?
Yes.
But it'll just be a more professionally done job, is that the
right,
idea?
right. Right now, it's crushed shells, which are going everywhere.
And the little,
Slip and fall. I'm trying to do everything safely.
I see, and the little cobblestones are just a trip hazard as well?
Well, they're smooth with the surface also, but
Not quite what
I
we
was
would
told to
do.
take them up. I'm going to take them up.
Okay. All right, I understand, thank you.
Mr. Skelly
And
and
you-
then Ms. Goldstone.
And you did remove something along Montgomery Court at some
Montgomery
point in
Court,
time?
Right, so now I'm limited to 3 parking spaces with 2 buildings on the area, just to move things along. I said, fine, I'll take up that area.
I drove by it today. There are cars parked in that little area. There's just not a, I thought I.
There's no cars parked on Montgomery Ave.
Not on, no, on your property. But I did see, I thought I saw some cars parked on your property, but parked there. There wasn't paving or anything like that.
Right. I park now at the front paver, which was my intention, just to make that for overflow and guests, or when I have a tenant back in the cottage. I was usually parking on Montgomery Court to keep things, I thought that was a better place for me to park. So now I park in front, and then there's space for 2 cars to park in that area right there.
And everybody else is on their own?
Ms. Goldstone?
It's tough like that. I'm on 3,750
Sorry,
square feet.
excuse me.
Go ahead, Ms. Goldstone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, actually, I would love to see current conditions, but I'm also, the parking that is on Grand Ave, is that permitted or not?
That's licensed.
We already have
That was the
license.
subject of a 2022
Okay.
license, correct. If you'd like, I will pull up, I went by there today, and this is how the driveway looks today. And there's cobblestone right at the bottom here. This is within the town layout, and as he mentioned, it's just crushed shells over here that's sort of becoming a mess.
And all that cobble's gonna be taken up, because the pavers are gonna be there in between the house and the cottage. That's gonna be a strip of grass.
But I'll reiterate, for what it's worth, these cobblestones have been there since approximately 2004. And he just, not that long ago, learned that it was a
The whole thing
violation.
used to be asphalt. We bought the place in 2000, and I'm actually thinking that, well, that all got stripped away and the crushed shell got added in around between 2002 and 2004, closer to 2002.
Mr. Zelinski?
Do the cobblestones that you're getting ready to put back in that area, does that change your lot coverage? Your
No, because that's on town property.
That's town property right there?
that strip of cobble.
No, no, no. You said you're going to replace the shells with cobble.
Yeah.
That turns it from impervious to an impervious.
It's going to be pervious paving.
Okay.
It's going to be pervious paving, 100%.
Ms.
I'm going
Goldstone?
to make sure of it.
My question about
Okay.
permeability.
If I may, just to
Yes.
Mr. Zelinski's question, so the border between the private property and the town layout is in the middle of that crushed shell area. You can see it on the plan.
So, and that wouldn't affect the lot
Basically
coverage.
from where the fence post is, over there on the right, and across. There you go.
It's not quite halfway down, but it's further up than one would think by just looking at it.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I have a question for
No.
town council.
Hold on, Mr. Brown was first, and then I'll go to
Okay.
Mr. Muscally.
Just, now I'm seeing the lawn, I'm wondering, is that gonna be changed at all, or is that
The what?
okay? Is any concern been raised about the lawn there? Or that's fine, right?
It's long.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mr. Muscally?
Yeah, Ms. O'Keefe, just, I was looking through the license, and I see there's a standard indemnification to the town. Does the town ever require the property owner to also show a certificate of insurance or any type of insurance running in favor of the town? Or is it, standard to just have indemnification from the property owner rather than insurance as well?
The town does not require insurance for projects of this small stature. Indemnification is sufficient for our purposes. It's really, it's just in case that there's a slip and fall on that particular area, and the homeowner's insurance would cover it. It's more red tape than I think is necessary for the small scale here.
But would the homeowner's insurance cover it if it's on town property?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just,
The town's not liable for that, no matter what, we wouldn't be liable for it anyway, but the indemnification clause, in my opinion, suffices.
thank you.
Ms. Goldstone?
Another clarifying question. I believe the application for license is for the apron
Yes, it is.
only?
That's correct.
With the condition of the removal of those cobbles, is the paving, the placement of the pavers on this driveway, is that a separate application or a modification that we would be making this evening? How does that fit into this?
It does not fit in. It's my understanding, and I think I stated this earlier, the area in the illustration included in your packet that's encircled in red includes halfway up, a third of the way up that driveway. Whatever's in the town layout, there shall be no cobblestone pavers within the town layout. The only thing that I'm recommending, as the attorney pointed out, was the apron at the corner of Montgomery Circle and Grand Avenue.
You want that cobble, that's cobble. You want the
So
cobble.
that's cobble.
Yep, you want that removed.
Yes.
The pavers,
We did in 2022, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
the pavers is a driveway. And everybody has a driveway that goes from the road to the,
So,
Maura, you wrote the grant, and we had this discussion, so let me defer to town council.
Sure.
It's my understanding that the agreement states that nothing is to remain in the town layout.
Yeah, my understanding when I drafted the license was that there are only 2 areas of town property that are subject to this license. The apron and what was already granted, the existing parallel parking space along Grand Avenue. There are no other sections or pieces or areas of town property that are being granted for use here, meaning that anything on town property that's shown in this picture up to where the fence begins, the wooden fence, must be removed.
Mr. Brown?
But are we not allowing them to put the pervious pavers back in place of the cobbles to meet the asphalt?
No, my recommendation is to not allow anything to be installed, constructed in the town layout, with the exception of the apron at the corner of Montgomery Circle and Grand Avenue. Now, if the board wants to wants to entertain allowing those pavers, my recommendation is that those not be allowed to be placed in the layout. Clearly, there's nothing there now, other than the cobbles that were placed in 2004 that we asked them to be removed in 2022. Those certainly have to go out. With regards to installing anything in the layout, again, the license as it's drafted right now talks about removing those existing cobbles and granting the license at the apron, at the intersection of Montgomery and Grand Avenue.
Okay, well, I would say that when we typically take a curb cut permit, it requires asphalt paving from the edge of the roadway to whatever the homeowner wants afterwards. And sometimes we allow pervious pavers in lieu of that asphalt apron, but we never allow a curb cut with just dirt or, unfinished, untreated surface to meet the asphalt because it just invites debris into the road.
Okay. And again, and Peter just mentioned that may be past practice and the procedures that have been followed with regards to the curb cut. So, and again, I've made the recommendation, if the board wants to entertain allowing that additional cobble to be installed from the edge to the fence post to tie in.
I think the pervious pavers are, they're nice and look really nice and they work well. So otherwise, if you don't allow that, I would say we'd have to probably insist on asphalt berm at the edge.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may. So, yeah, I think my suggestion would be that the board consider the town manager's recommendation as submitted. And Mr. Brown is absolutely correct. It is standard for a curb cut for a driveway permit to have an ability to do some paving. So I don't think that that's something that this board needs to take up tonight. I think that's a DPW matter as part of a driveway permit. So there wouldn't be normally a license agreement to have pavement from your driveway to the paved, improved roadway.
So that's not going to be approved or considered tonight as part of this grant of license.
That's my suggestion.
Would we be okay with agreeing with the town manager's recommendation, but yet sending the applicant back to the DPW to apply for a curb cut permit, and then let them work out the details of how the finish is? Because right now, if we enforce him to tear that up, it's just going to invite more debris out into the road. And
This property's under a special permit, so everything that happens and changes on this has to go back for a modification to the ZBA. Anything they do to change that's on their permit now.
Yeah.
The third version of that permit, or the second version, has to go and be amended by them. Curb cuts, everything.
The pavers.
But we looked at a plan. Could I ask a question to the applicant? So let me ask you this, have you already gone to the ZBA to get this plan that's in front of us today, to get their permission for this?
It showed pavers in the proposed.
This is a slightly modified version of that same plan, as I understand it. There were a month or two ago, in May, I think was the most recent date of revision on the plan that I just had up on the screen. I can pull it back
Well,
up.
my question is, has the ZBA seen this plan?
Tim Santos drew this plan for you and went before the
Yep.
ZBA, correct?
Yes.
And the
Yes.
pavers were discussed as part of being in the plan?
Well, it was all there because we were talking about paving, parking, and
Lot coverage.
Yeah, pavings, parkings, the lot coverage, exactly.
So there should be a referral from the town engineer in that permit, giving you permission to augment that curb cut, or modify it, right?
We'll have to review that special permit.
It showed pavers going from the road. It showed a driveway there. It showed pervious pavers there. It showed a driveway
They're
area.
where, Mr. Bowen? Could you show us exactly what you're talking about?
Right here.
If you don't mind, sorry.
It showed.
Yeah.
2 years.
This right here showed that. And as a matter of fact, it went over here to the right and came down a little bit. And
Onto the town road,
right,
is
but
what you're saying.
Mr. Renshaw wanted all the parking and my permit when I got the cottage approved 15 years ago or something, or 10 years ago. That parking was supposed to be on the property.
Not on the right-of-way,
Right.
but Grand
And
Avenue.
that's, I wanted a license for that, but that didn't happen. And so, this is 18 feet wide. And we just wanted to show that we could put 2 cars here. Pavers may go over here to the right, but we pushed everything up a little bit. This lawn area was gonna come down a little bit, and for aesthetic purposes. And so we showed that 2 car, we're just showing that 2 cars, 2 automobiles can park here, and then some. But the proposal did show all the pavers here going up and covering this area, and so. So, I mean, I need to have, I mean, the town would have to come in and asphalt this. And that's not impervious, and I'm gonna be putting in a pervious surface there.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Make a suggestion that we ask the applicant to go to the DPW engineering and apply for a curb cut permit, and let them work out the details and come back to us, so we can have a more clear understanding of what is gonna be installed. Because to just remove it, I think, is probably gonna cause problems for everyone.
By removing it, you're talking about the 2 rows of cobblestone that have been there since 2004? That's in the town layout.
What I mean
The
is-
town engineer recommended be removed.
Right, and I'm not arguing, I'm just saying that if we remove it, it would be good to have the new, whatever it's gonna be, put in right away, so we don't have an interim while we're waiting to figure out what's approvable. If we send him now to remove that, he'll probably have to like temporarily put gravel there or something that's even less.
If, I'll remove that strip of cobble there, and when they remove it, I'll have them put gravel there, or some clamshells there, or something like that, if you.
But that's why I'm asking.
I would do that anyways.
That's why I'm asking you to go, or I'm asking the board to direct, if they so choose, to go to the DPW, because they have strict guidelines. Whenever we do a house project, they tell us the curb cut in this situation, you need 5 feet of asphalt at a minimum, but you can propose alternate materials as long as you specify how it's going to be done. And
Well,
that-
before I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that maybe it can be worked out in where that you can get clarification from the DPW engineering as to whether or not those cobbles are acceptable in the curb cut. And then you can know what you're doing before you rip it out.
Well, before I put in those pavers, how's this sound? Before I put in those pavers, I'll go to the highway department and ask for a new driveway permit and propose to them what I want to do. Folks, I tried to do this all by myself in the beginning, okay? Now I had to hire a special engineer to redo this for me. I've got attorneys involved. This, you know.
They might say that you're on the right path and come back with a
Right.
recommendation that.
But I'm still, you know, the clock keeps on ticking with added expenses that, this has been going on for over 2 years.
You don't probably need another expense, though. The engineering department's not going to charge you a lot of money to look at a plan that you've already got developed. They'll just say yay or nay, or they maybe have a current policy that might require it to be asphalt, or who knows what, given the condition that you have a
Well, I'll take your
impervious.
advice. I mean, I'm you know, saving from myself.
Go ahead, Mr. Renshaw.
So to move this along, and I appreciate Mr. Brown's suggestion that we take this back, allow DPW to take a closer look. From my perspective, Town Engineer, Division of Department of Public Works has looked at this and made the recommendation that that cobblestone be removed and nothing be installed. To Mr. Brown's point, eventually there's going to have to be some tie-in connection. So I'd be perfectly comfortable under that scenario staying or postponing the immediate removal of those cobblestones, with the understanding that Mr. Bowen will work with DPW, come back with that permit. My point is, and the point of this grant of license is to authorize, I guess, the continued presence of the cobblestone in that turn, right? Because there's currently cobblestone in that
That's
radius
correct,
turn.
sir. Yes.
Yeah, which was never approved. So from my office's perspective, I want Select Board to approve, grant the license for that apron, and I'm perfectly fine with the scenario where the applicant goes back and works with DPW to figure out how they're going to tie into Grand Avenue.
Okay. Do we want to set a date to see you again? or-
I don't believe it needs to come back to this board.
Oh, okay.
We'll monitor that, yes. I
Oh,
don't think it has to come back. You grant the license if you desire tonight
Okay.
with regards to the apron, and my office will work with the applicant and DPW on the details of how that ties in.
Great.
Someone want to move it?
I'll move it.
You want to read it?
A motion to approve the grant of license to John R. Bowen and Anna A. Bowen to provide the licensee with the non-exclusive use of certain property within the public way at the intersection of Grand Avenue, a public way, and Montgomery Court, a private way, for the purpose of installing and maintaining a cobblestone apron at said intersection as illustrated in the attached diagram, and that all other unlicensed cobblestone pavers be removed, with the understanding that Mr. Renshaw just mentioned with respect to interacting with the Department of Highways. That's a motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zelinski. Okay,
Thank you all very much for your
move
time.
on.
Thank you very much.
Discuss and vote to changes of the Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee member appointment. Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quickly, as you all recall, this Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee is composed of 5 regular members and 2 alternates. We set the committee up, or recommended it set up, to allow for the 7 individuals to participate and maintain that bench, or basically pool of folks that could serve as a quorum if there was a lack of a quorum. And also, these alternates could also serve as a reserve for future regular members when regular members rotate off the committee. It was a great plan. What happened, though, what we found out after the committee's first meeting, is that none of the regular voting members wanted to serve as chair. So tonight's agenda item is a request from my office for the board to consider transitioning Mr. Kim Comart, who was appointed when the committee was established as a regular member, transitioning Mr. Comart to an alternate member, and transitioning Mr. Steve Salbo, who was appointed as an alternate member when the committee was created, transitioning or moving him to a voting member, a regular member of the committee. This would allow Mr. Salbo, who I understand has expressed some interest in serving as chair, to serve in that capacity. So, Madam Chair, my recommendation is to appoint Mr. Kim Comart as an alternate member of the Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee with a term expiring June 30th, 2026, and also to appoint Mr. Steve Salbo as a regular member of the Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee with a term to expire June 30th, 2027. And I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
I do. Mr. Renshaw, there had been discussion, and I thought we were moving in the direction of changing the composition of the advisory committee so that it had 7 full-time members as opposed to, I mean, there was discussion to that effect. Is
During
that?
the meeting when the committee was established, there was some discussion. I just want to make sure I understand.
No,
what
I
you're saying.
think even subsequent to that, I think my concern had been, would it not be better to have a committee of 7 full members? There's obviously interest in this committee. We have 7 people who want to be part of it, but the way it was set up, only 5 can be regular and 2 alternate. I understand why it was done that way or what the reasoning was, but it seems like there's real interest in this committee, and I'm wondering, not necessarily tonight, but long-term, that the committee or that the board consider changing the committee so that it had 7 full members rather than 5 members and 2 alternates. And I thought we were discussing that.
I think we can do that at some point, but what's ahead of us tonight is whether we want to put Stephen Solbo in as the chair, not as the chair, but as a regular member, and moving Kim Comart as an alternate member. That's what's in front of us tonight. Does anyone have strong feelings about that?
I think it's a smart idea for now to get them going.
Okay, do you want to make the motion? There are
I'm just
2
curious
parts. Go
why
ahead.
if we can change the composition in terms of who's which one, why we can't change instead just change the size of the committee?
Is it on the agenda?
It's not on the agenda, and I'd like to have more of a conversation about that. What's in front of us tonight is if we're willing to switch those two around.
The other thing is, I think it's more nimble to have 5 with 2 alternates because it's easier to get a quorum.
I would agree with you, Mr. Brown, and I would ask that we table that conversation until it's on the agenda. As
I thought
posted.
it was going to be on the agenda. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
it's not.
Okay.
I make a motion to appoint Kim Comart as an alternate member of the Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2026, and motion to appoint Steve Salvo as a regular member of the Freshwater Ponds Advisory Committee with a term expiring June 30th, 2027.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing,
They'll make their own determination who the chair
Who
is,
the
and
chair
that has
is.
nothing to do with us, so.
we're just changing membership. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay, one opposed. All right, we're going to move into discuss and vote changes to the Veterans Council Committee Veterans Organization appointments. Mr. Renshaw?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A bit of background summary. The Veterans Council policy, which you have attached to your packets this evening, which was adopted by the Select Board, calls for 9 members at the discretion of the Select Board. The policy identifies 6 veteran organizations, each of which is invited to nominate 1 member to serve on the council, and the other 3 serve as alternate or at-large members. I'm sorry. Madam Chair, Select Board, 2 of these organizations did not nominate a member of to the council for the year beginning July 1st of 2022, which has resulted in vacancies for well over a year now. The 2 organizations are Veterans of Foreign War, the VFW, and the Falmouth Military Support Group. Wanted to bring to the board's attention, however, that on June 4th, Mr. Ahmed Mustafa dropped off an application, a nomination form, to serve in that role as with the VFW. So I wanted the board to be aware of that. The town manager's office solicits nominations from all of the veteran organizations each and every year. The Veterans Office staff then follow up with the appointees and/or organizations to simply remind them of the need to request reappointment on an annual basis. The assistant town manager did some research, and again, I wanted to make this point known to the board, that the DAV seat, which has been vacant since June 30th of 2023, currently has a designee that's been attending meetings, Mr. Ron Nassif. He was appointed for the year ending June 30th, 2023, has continued to attend and participate in council meetings, but it's my understanding that the Select Board has not formally approved or made that appointment for the DAV. Wanted to bring that to your attention as we do some housekeeping and try to get the Veterans Council seats straightened out. The Veterans Council has made a determination via unanimous vote that the VFW and the Falmouth Military Support Group have vacated their respective appointments, and they cited Section 3C, again, of the committee handbook, which you have attached to your packet. There was also an email sent to the Select Board back in February of this year from the council chair, Ms. Carissa April, notifying the board of those vacancies and the fact that the folks that were appointed to those roles had not shown up in attended meetings. Madam Chair and Board, the Veterans Council is requesting the Select Board to appoint a nominee of the Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center, who I understand the Veterans Council reached out to and they expressed interest in serving. And again, there was an email dated June 3rd from the council chair, Carissa April, on this. And as I mentioned earlier, earlier this month, or last month on June 4th, the manager's office received a nomination form from Mr. Ahmed Mustafa requesting he be appointed to serve in the VFW role. So Madam Chair, Select Board, I'm recommending that the Select Board vote to modify the composition of the Veterans Council as requested by the Veterans Council back in February, and again reiterated by the Executive Director recently, by removing that VFW and the Family Military Support Group from the list of organizations that submit nominations and adding the Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center as an organization invited to submit a nomination. So again, recommendation is to remove both the VFW and the Family Military Support Group and add the Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center. But I wanted the Select Board to know, and I certainly would understand, if we want, now that we have an applicant for the VFW, Mr. Mustafa, that the board can certainly consider to amend that recommendation, include Mr. Mustafa's application for the VFW and simply remove the Family Military Support Group from the mix, from the council organizational list. And I think that would square everything away.
That was going to be my question. Could we split the difference? And now that we do have an application, could we leave the VFW
We
in?
certainly can. I wanted to kind of I wanted to kind of follow the initial recommendation of the Veterans Council, but again, not new information. It was earlier in June that it came in. This application to serve as the VFW representative, I think, is important, and hopefully that role can, I think it's an important role on the council, and hopefully that role can be filled going forward.
I have a question.
Mr. Brown?
The previous appointee to that position was a different person than Mr. Mustafa, right?
That's my understanding.
So there was no appointee for over a year.
Over a year, yeah.
Oh,
With the previous person.
That's why they want to do away with them both, because nobody was showing up.
I think that's correct.
but we hadn't appointed anybody, because nobody came to apply.
Nobody applied.
Now we have an applicant.
Right.
Okay.
That was my question about leaving it. Go ahead. Mr.
But an application we haven't made at this point, or we're not in a position to name Mr. Mustafa
We
at this point.
can't
Great,
yet.
great
Right.
point. Great
Thank
point.
you.
But
That'll be a
yes.
subsequent meeting.
Right, and I'm just curious, has the Veterans Council opined or had any response to Mr. Mustafa's application
So-
that you're aware of?
So, Madam Chair, Select Board Member Muscali, another great question. I reached out to Carissa earlier today. She was the one that brought it to my attention that we had this VFW nomination form. I reached back out to her earlier today to ask what she felt the council's opinion would be, and I hadn't received a response back.
Okay.
So that could certainly be settled at a future meeting, and I'll reach back out to Carissa to find out what the
Thank you.
council's.
Okay.
At least this gives the opportunity for the Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center to be included, because there's no other recommendation for inclusion, so we can give it a try and let the VFW stay on, and if it doesn't work out, we can revisit later, right?
Mr. Muscala?
So just to clarify, we're going to go from 9 to 8, basically. We'll have, is my math correct? It would have been 9 to 7 if we dropped VFW and the family support. Now,
bring it
but now
back
we're
up.
adding VFW, so it's 8.
Yeah.
So we don't.
No.
Nine.
It would be
Stays
back
at
to
nine.
9 because there's,
You're going back to VFW
Only
and you're
taking off-
adding one, so it
Only
goes to
taking
Oh,
off
and we're
one.
adding the veterans, okay, the outreach, okay.
The outreach
got it.
center.
So we're back to 9.
I'm wondering
Okay,
if we
thank you.
could add the Cape and Islands, the new representative, and change the language to up to 3 at-large, which would maintain it at 9 and still leave that door open in the future if there were a nominee from the other group that has not had anyone in that position.
Well, they do have a nominee now.
VFW does, but
Cape and Islands Outreach, Falmouth Military Support
Falmouth
Group?
Military Support Group does not.
I think now that the majority of deployments have subsided, I don't know how active they are. Now most of those folks are very active in the new Veterans Center, so that group is less active, and that might be the reason for the recommendation.
I guess I would move to modify the composition of the Veterans Council as requested by the Veterans Council by removing the DAV from the list of organizations
Madam
that
Chair?
submit.
If I could just,
Nominations?
that was a typo. The DAV reference, we mentioned it earlier in the speaking points because I wanted the Select Board to be aware
Okay,
of this issue with the DAV representative. We'll address that at a future meeting, too.
okay.
That was a typo in regards to working its way into the recommendation. So insert Family Military Support Group where you
thank
see
So
DAV.
we are going to remove the FMSC.
Yes.
We are not going to remove the VFW at this time, and we're going to add the Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center as an organization that nominates a member, correct? And this is coming from the Veterans Council themselves,
That was their
correct?
unanimous request, is to add the
Okay.
Cape and Islands group, yes.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Unanimous, thank you. I am going to move is Stephen Morris here? Okay. Can I, if you don't mind, Mr. Brown?
Certainly.
I'd like to take this out of, I said I was going to take it out of order. I tried to shoot for 8 o'clock,
No, that's
didn't
fine,
work.
thank you.
So Mr. Morris is applying for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. He was not able to be with us on the first round of interviews. Is there anything that you would like to tell us about yourself that isn't on your application?
I think most of it's there. I left out a couple of things. One, I know they meet on Wednesdays, and I don't work on Wednesdays, so that's a plus, so that won't be a problem, and I'm available for any extra meetings, site visits, and I know they do some outreach because I've run into them on the bike path a few times, so I'm willing to do all that. I left out one activity that I volunteered for 6 years here in Falmouth. I forgot to put it on. That was the I did trail clearing for the 300 committee from 2017 to 2020, and that's every Sunday morning. We go out with chainsaws and et cetera, and did about every trail that the 300 committee oversees more than once. So I did that for 6 years. I forgot to put that on there. Other than that, I just reiterate, I do a lot of volunteering over the years. I really like doing it. I'd like to be part of that committee since I use that, as I said in my application, that bike path 5 days a week. I run it, as I did today. I walk it a lot. I bike it. So I want to be part of the discussion going forward on the repairs and the maintenance and the electric bike discussion that I see zooming by me. So I'd like to be part of that. And I just want to get on there and listen at first and learn what's going on. Over the years, all my volunteering for 30 years, I usually have full attendance. I seldom miss a meeting. I even go to the extent of arranging my vacations around meetings, which shouldn't be too bad because they only meet once a month, but I've been on boards that meet every week. So I just finished 6 or 7 years on the Falmouth Track Club, now called the Running Club Advisory Board, and the only reason I'm off of it is because we termed out. There was a term limit that we just changed, but it didn't affect me because I was still under the term limit. So you can't serve more than two-year terms, so 4 years in a row, and then you're off. So I'm off of that now, but I'm still involved with them doing the Falmouth, the Cape Cod Marathon. I'm the relay director of the marathon part under Jack Afarian. And that's about it. So I have a lot of enthusiasm. I go to all meetings. I participate. I listen a lot, and I speak when I think I know I have something to add. Okay.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Morris? Yes.
I guess I'm curious, you obviously use the bike path a lot.
Yes.
Your thoughts and your interest level in thinking about bike and pedestrian issues beyond the bike path on our roadways and the rest of town?
Yeah, so I realized they also do bike lanes, and they just added some I noticed recently. It's a huge issue in this town because I got to see in September, I did a bike ride in Amsterdam from Amsterdam to Bruges in Belgium, and it's just so different. It's all set up for biking, and they've been doing that for hundreds of years, and it's hard to retrofit a town that has no a lot of the part of the town that has no sidewalks, and I don't know. I'd have to listen and learn. I don't know how you squeeze it in, and that's not just here, it's everywhere. They're trying to do it in Boston by taking away car lanes and adding bike lanes, and it's not going over so well with a lot of people. And I was riding today, and there was someone running in the road. There was no other place for the person to be. It's tough. It's tough to retrofit. But when you see the rest of the world, how they've done it, it's very appealing. But we can't do that. We just don't have the land to do it. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. We just have to do the best we can and educate the public on the roads. But people aren't very receptive to bicyclists. And I'm not a big biker. My main thing is running and then biking second. I don't have an answer for you yet. I need to listen and learn and find out what they have to say on the committee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? And you have all the applications in front of you.
Yes, we do.
We do.
I will say that we have 3 applicants. I apologize for the last meeting not paying attention that we only had 1 position. I didn't ask Mr. Taylor any extensive questions because I thought we were going to be appointing 3 people. I wasn't paying attention. But one thing I've noticed in review is the one person that really has attended the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee is Mr. Flaherty, who I don't think is here tonight. I usually am pretty swayed by the fact that somebody's already attending the committee meetings, so that's an important one for me. That person is probably already knows what's going on with the bike committee, so I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Good point.
Do you have any questions of this candidate? Anyone have any?
No, he's given us a lot of information, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You have all the information. Would anyone like to make a nomination?
Before we do, I just, I think it's wonderful to have 3 applicants for one position. I think Mr. Taylor is in the audience. We know of your interest as well. Personally, and I will point out that on your application, you also expressed an interest in the Affordable Housing Committee, and I don't know if you were here when Mr. Garrison was speaking, but they are looking for members. So depending upon how this vote goes, you may want to consider that, because obviously you're interested in town, and that's wonderful. The tipping point for me with respect to Mr. Morris, quite frankly, is that he's lived here for 9 years, and the other 2 candidates are relatively new to the town. So I would make a motion to approve Stephen Morris as a member of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee.
It's an interesting, good point.
That is a good point. I have to say, the combination that Mr. Flaherty has already been attending meetings, and also his experience in Colorado working at a community level to really get people involved, and his vision and ambition around active transportation as part of the community beyond a bike path really struck me, and I think that's where I would lean.
That was my inclination as well.
Okay, so is it a nomination?
I don't know, any more comments?
The Flaherty gentleman, forgive me, I forgot his first name, but he had some new innovative ideas that we haven't considered, and it's hard to pick when you have 3 people that want to donate their time and obviously are so equally passionate. It's hard to make a decision like this, but I think the influx of a new perspective outside of the town view may be beneficial to us. So, sorry, Bob. While I agree with I think an influx of a new perspective in this instance would be the tipping point for me, so I would support the Flaherty nomination.
So I do have a motion, but I don't hear it having been seconded.
Did you do a motion for?
Well, I did say
Mr.
that I would support a motion in any event.
Okay,
I may have worded it that
I
way.
agreed actually with Mr. Miscali. So if that's a motion, I would second the motion.
Okay, all right.
It's definitely the hardest part of this job is finding
is.
one person when you have 3 good candidates.
So I have a motion and a second. So we need to vote that.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with
No.
Mr. Flaherty.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll move to nominate Mitchell Flaherty to the Bike and Pedestrian Committee.
I would second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 No. So it's 4-1. All right, so that's Mr. Flaherty gets the nod.
Sorry,
So
Mr.
thank
Taylor.
Thank you, though.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I hope
so
you
much.
consider that Affordable Housing
Housing.
Committee. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
interest.
We're going to move on to discuss letter from the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association regarding the Gulf of Maine wind lease area. And Mr. Brown, I'm going to shoot that one to you, and I'm going to keep you to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think we need 10 minutes. So we met recently, the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders held a annual meeting on June 14th on Martha's Vineyard. Our featured speaker was one of the gentlemen from the County Commission. We had to substitute. The original speaker had a conflict and couldn't come. But anyway, so we heard a presentation from the Martha's Vineyard Commission about vineyard wind and how the impacts to the vineyard, mostly good, infrastructure improvements, jobs, so forth. And a couple days before the meeting, we got an outreach from the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, and they said, hey, we got the Gulf of Maine project going on, and we don't have a lot of comments from Cape and Islands leaders, and we'd like to know if we can come and attend your meeting virtually, just to give you a little more background on the project. And I said, well, yeah, I guess we can fit you in for a short period after the featured speaker. And they came, and they were very prepared. They gave us a great outline of how they had first considered the entire Gulf of Maine, and then they removed 90-something% of the area for one reason or another, and they were down to a very small area. And personally, I think my focus of attention was on the size of the area, not so much the location of it. And, we thanked them for attending. And after the meeting, somebody said, gee, those lease areas are awfully close to Cape Cod. And I didn't expect that to be in the Gulf of Maine. I went back and looked at the map again, and I said, wow, that really is interesting that the Gulf of Maine extends all the way down to Chatham. And that's sort of counterintuitive. I wonder, in retrospect, maybe the project should have been Northeast Regional lease area, so we would have been maybe more attuned to it. Personally, I got emails from Bureau of Ocean Energy Management because I can try to consider myself informed, and when I saw Gulf of Maine, I was thinking that's somebody else's concern. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. So now we realize that of the 8 lease areas, 6 of them are directly off Cape Cod. So it does impact us, and comes to find out that the presentation we had at our Municipal Leaders Association, apparently, as far as I can tell, is the only presentation or any outreach that we've had. So the Municipal Leaders Association decided to have another meeting about it and discuss, and the board decided that it was appropriate to reach out to them with a comment letter. And the first comment was that we'd like them to extend the comment period so that they can do a little more outreach to the Cape Cod area so that we can better understand the project. And in the letter, a lot of knowledgeable folks raised a lot of important questions in a rather short time frame, and we sent that letter along, which is in the packet. So today is July 1st. It's actually the last day of public comment on a project that's, I think, somewhat impactful, very impactful to the Cape, whereas there's potentially 1,000 wind turbines within 20 to 30 miles of the shoreline. The turbines proposed between Wellfleet and Chatham are all floating turbines attached to the seafloor by chain and cable, which apparently has never been done before at this scale. So there obviously would be a lot of questions to be asked. I would say for tonight, all I'm asking for the board to do is the simplest thing would be to send an email saying, we support the extension of the public comment period, and perhaps maybe you would support the content of the letter. That would make it easy for Mr. Renshaw to just send off a quick email and maybe squeeze in under the comment period, or, however the board wants to take it up. If you think it's something that we should be taking up, it's the other end of the Cape, but I think it's still important that we comment something.
If I may, as you know, Ms. Brown, I was at that meeting on June 14th as well, and I think you've summarized very well as to what's going on. I certainly would support asking that the time limit be extended to July 22nd, I think is the date. Yes. And then it would come before us possibly at our July 15th meeting that maybe we would discuss Mr. Renshaw sending a letter of some sort. You don't see any real direct impact to Falmouth. This is more a Cape-wide concern.
It's a Cape-wide concern, but I think it highlights the concerns that we had here in Falmouth while we were kind of on our own with Mayflower Wind. And now, do we want to leave the other end of the Cape alone with another lease area? And I think that we really should advocate, personally, I think we should advocate for more leadership from the state government and federal government on better coordination of these projects. So that's another ball of wax. But for today, really, if you think it's feasible, I would like to ask Mr. Renshaw to just send a quick email to Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. Just even if we don't fully endorse this letter, at least we cite this letter and ask for an extension in a similar time frame.
In the public comment area
On the
until
public-
July 22nd.
Yes.
I would I would agree with that, just,
Can't hurt.
Not taking a position necessarily at this point, other than extending the time that we
Yeah.
might comment.
And request more information to be,
Exactly.
brought forth to Cape Cod residents.
So I will also just say,
Ms.
I mean, I'm
Goldstone?
very much in favor of supporting the extension in the comment period. I will just note that that matches the information and comment period on the environmental assessment, which is, I
Correct.
think, where more of those concerns were actually addressed. And the reason I was just pulling up my phone, is I'm currently signed up for a virtual public meeting on the environmental assessment on the evening of July 10th, and there is another one scheduled as well. And again, you'd mentioned the website earlier. You can pull those up. So there are two upcoming information sessions on the environmental assessment specifically. So I think this first comment was on, I think maybe like the size or location of the lease area is kind of in this next phase that is open until July 22nd goes into the environmental impact.
Right,
and then people will have that information hopefully by the 15th.
right. And, it's a short period, but we were originally going to ask for 180 days, but then other people pointed out that the environmental review comment period ends on the 22nd, and we said, well, let's try to be reasonable. After all, they did reach out to us. They seemed very informative, and I'm not trying to slight the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, just that we, I think, need a little more time to get a little more information.
So is that the consensus of the board, that we direct the town manager to send a letter requesting an extension to the public comment period until July 22nd?
And perhaps referencing,
You can reference
Via
the letter. that
email,
went out.
because I'll do that before I leave tonight, via
Yes.
email,
That would be
because
great.
today's July 1st. So
Right.
I will
Yes.
send an email tonight to, attention, Mr. Zachary Jilka, I believe.
he's actually the person who reached out to me, and I have his email if it's not written right there.
It's not, so I'll get that before I
Okay.
leave.
Is that the consensus of the board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Brown.
Yes, thank you, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
we're going to move into the consent agenda. Please notify me as the chair if there's any item that you would like to hold. Licenses, approve the application of Falmouth Elks Lodge, BPOE of USA, Inc., for a change of officers, directors of a nonprofit all-alcohol club license to be exercised at 140 Palmer Ave, Falmouth.
I just would comment that I'm a member there, but I have no affiliation with the directors or anything. I'm just a member.
Thank you. Approve application for a special one-day all-alcoholic liquor license, New England Festivals, Inc., Harbor Light Illumination Concert Series and Night Market, Saturdays, 7/6, 7/13, 7/27, 8/10, 8/17, and 8/24/24. Administrative orders, vote to execute Eversource Electric Service easement for wastewater treatment facility site. Approve mission statement for the 250th Anniversary Task Force. Vote to accept donation in the amount of $500 from David's Old Silver Swim, Inc., care of Robert and Susan Catalano, to the beach donations account to fund the Dr. David Garber Dare to Be Great Award given to a lifeguard during their annual banquet, with a note of thanks.
Yes.
Vote to accept a donation in the amount of $850 from the Old Stone Dock Association to the beach donations account to fund the planting of window boxes for the L&T Mitchell Bathhouse at 56 Surf Drive. Vote to expend those funds from the Old Stone Dock Association donation to the beach donations account to pay the Soares Flower Garden Nursery invoice for the window box flowers and planting services at the L&T Mitchell Bathhouse at 56 Surf Drive.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to move the consent agenda. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. Okay, we're going to review the minutes. Review and vote to approve minutes of May 6, 2024, June 17, 2024. Has everybody had an opportunity to read them?
Yeah, I
Yes.
noticed one typo, and I didn't write it down, so I'm going to have to look.
I noticed one issue in the section on committee assignments, where instead of it noting that Mr. Brown and I swapped
That's the one.
assignments, I ended up
Say
with,
which
You got two.
I got beach committee and ag.
Which page are you
Okay,
on?
I'm gonna have to find the page, sorry.
I know, me too.
It's toward the end.
Was the second set of meeting minutes or the first? I don't know.
I think it was the June 17th meeting. We talked about committee assignments.
Okay, I think what I'm going to do is table the minutes, and we will take them up next time. If and when you see a correction, if you could.
We could just
Do
cite
you
the
have
fact that I'm on the Agricultural Commission liaison, and she's on the Beach Committee.
Okay, it just means that they have to go back and find it.
Right.
So I think I'm going to table, and we'll bring them back.
Okay.
Town manager supplemental report.
Nothing tonight, Madam Chair.
Okay. Select board reports. Mr. Muscally.
I, and Mr. Brown as well, attended a Zoom meeting with the Lieutenant Governor Driscoll and others as regards the proposed bike trail extension from North Falmouth through Bourne, at which there was discussed a possible third alternative, kind of a hybrid plan for the bike trail. So that is still an ongoing discussion. No decision has been raised, has been entered as of yet.
Any comment from you on that, Mr. Brown?
Yes, ma'am. It was interesting, and I was a little disappointed. Representative Vieira was there, and he seemed quite surprised by the military's position had changed somewhat from what his understanding previously was, as he explained at the meeting, that he had expected that the military had already agreed that the trail was not really essential and that they could operate from the Middleborough area. And there was two, Colonel Porter was there and another officer, I think, who's now the actual military officer who's in charge since Colonel Porter retired to just the management portion. And they had said that after further review, it was determined that to take the rail offline at this time was not feasible, because they really need that option, because conditions around the world change, and at some point, they may need equipment that cannot be delivered over the roadway. And so that was one point of it. They also...
What was, if you don't mind, what was his reaction to finding out that he was misinformed?
He seemed very disappointed and somewhat perturbed, as having not been informed previously before the meeting that this had been a change. He was very surprised. And he did mention that he had previous discussions with military officials.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just...
No, that's fine.
I want to know what his reaction was.
Yeah, I was surprised too, but... And then they pointed out that the Surface Transportation Board is another entity that would need to approve this change, which is another hurdle. And then Lieutenant Governor pointed out that also another important consideration is that she perceived a serious possibility of lawsuits preventing the use of the ARPA funds, regardless of what decision was made by the governor's office, because the time frame just wouldn't work out, where they have to appropriate this money and spend it by the end of next year. And she's just, I think, trying to be realistic and saying, let's figure out a better plan. So the Lieutenant Governor and the Mass Division of Transportation had looked into possibly using part of the rail and then going off onto Shore Road for a little way. But the chair of the Bourne Bikeways, Chair's Bourne Select Board, MJ Mastriano, I hope I say her name, Mastriangelo, pointed out that that had been looked at previously and wasn't feasible. There wasn't enough land there. So I made some comments that, in my opinion, that it really did make sense to go rail to trail, but not until the new trail, a new rail is in place. So I encouraged everybody in the room to focus on appropriating the correct amount of funds to really relocate the rail to the transfer station or to a new location for the transfer station, whatever better idea. But personally, I feel like that needs to be done first before we rip up infrastructure that we have existing. So I think I was lucky enough to make a pretty good point with the Lieutenant Governor, and I got to make my case that for $2 million, we could buy a train, a brand-new trolley that runs on electric power, and a charging station. And for another $1 million, we'd have a little cushion and enough to build a little temporary building in North Falmouth to house it. And I said, this only has to be temporary until the legislature can get it together and work with the military to get enough funding to relocate the rail line. And so I've just proposed it again as a temporary measure. I noticed the Lieutenant Governor took some notes, but I didn't see anybody from Bourne nodding their heads. So
Thank you,
that's,
Mr. Brown.
that's the summation.
Okay, any other select board reports?
Yes, ma'am. I continue to attend the CCMPO meetings monthly, and I encourage everyone with interest in tip money requests and status to go on their website. It's very informative. And then I did find some time to get to the DPW cookout last week, which was, it was good to see those guys and ladies and guys out there having a good time and just cutting loose a little bit.
Nice.
It was very nice, and there were 2 retirements, so that was nice to
Right.
see.
Oh, and I did attend the Agricultural Commission's meeting just a couple of days ago, and they pointed out that they really want to get the word out about what their work is, and they're working on a few flyers, and they asked me how would they go about getting funding, and I said, well, it takes a while. You'll have to put in a request to the Select Board and to the Finance Committee, and you're not likely to get it by, till next year. And they said, well, when does the warrant close? And I said, I think it's at the end of August, but I think there's another deadline in July for finance recommendations, isn't there? They thought about having an extra meeting in July, just to see if they could squeeze in a request at town meeting. I didn't really encourage it, but I just told them I would look into that.
So, I mean, if we're talking about the operating budget, then that's, something that would be taken up after December for April.
And is there any use in them having a meeting on July 25th to discuss whether or not, I mean, it's a small amount of money for pamphlets, but they feel like they need some kind of budget, and I don't know how that would be done. I told them I would look into it. So if you don't have any quick advice, I'll send you an email tomorrow and maybe get a better.
Peter's right, I think it would be in December in preparation for the April, but we'll certainly take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other reports?
Nope.
Okay, I just want to remind the board that there is an August workshop scheduled. I've heard back from most of the board members, but not all. And the other thing I just wanted to point out is that Mr. Renshaw, I hope you will pass this on to the DPW, that the fence at the green looks awesome. And that was, I had a lot of complaints about the way that looked, and they did a fabulous job.
And I would throw in a comment, thank you for getting the fence up around the Hiawatha Providence Street area for the safety of the residents in that area.
That is still a work in progress, but thank you.
But at least there's a little progress, so thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Do we have an easement that we
What?
sign?
We've got a couple of things to sign here.
Yeah, okay.
Just make sure you sign it
Yeah.
before you go.
That's what I wanted to know.
It's only 9 o'clock, Bobby.